Once you're on the other side, please refrain from wandering around to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. Standing in the transmission array, Kanglan City Lord cautioned. I understand. Lu Qing nodded. However, he suddenly remembered something, waved his hand, and said, City Lord, could you please wait a moment? Lu Xiaodao, do you have anything left undone? Not exactly. I wanted to inquire whether the City Lord's transmission array prohibits carrying living creatures inside space treasures. That's correct. This array was crafted with special restrictions, allowing only living creatures that contact the transmission array to be transported. This is to prevent Demon Clan spies from hiding inside space artifacts and infiltrating our righteous territory through the transmission array. Kanglan City Lord nodded. Lu Qing secretly remarked that he was right. When he took the transmission array in Star Sky City, he was informed of this. This is also why, upon arriving in the Little Tsong realm, he needed to earn spirit stones diligently, because he had already heard that the transmission array in Heavenly Heart City leading to the Heavenly Origin Great World also does not allow living creatures hidden within space treasures to be transported. Otherwise, he could save a substantial amount on transmission fees. However, things like artifact spirits and divine soul consciousness are not subject to this restriction. Why does Lu Xiaodao have other companions in his magical treasure? Kanglan City Lord's heart was moved, and he asked. Beside him, Mo Hongyun also showed a curious expression. Lu Qing had stayed in her treasure tower for quite some time, but she only saw him retreat daily into a cave mansion and did not see him connecting with others. It's my two spiritual pets? Lu Qing smiled, then moved his heart and spirit slightly. Next moment, two shadows flew out from the Chengkuan Qi bag at his waist, landing on his shoulders. They were Little Li and 5 elements. Little Li, 5 elements, greet the two seniors, Lu Qing instructed. Greetings, seniors. Little Li and 5 elements both bowed respectfully to Kanglan City Lord and Mo Hongyun in their unique ways. Didn't expect Lu Xiaodao to have such spirited spiritual pets. Looking at Little Li and 5 elements, Kanglan City Lord's eyes revealed a touch of surprise. With his realm and cultivation, he sensed that these two spiritual pets seemed not as simple as they appeared. As for Mo Hongyun, her eyes shone brightly as she looked at Little Li. Lu Xiaodao's spiritual pet looked extremely adorable. If they weren't eager to teleport away, she truly wanted to ask Lu Qing if she could hold it for a moment. City Lord, I'm wondering if adding these two spiritual pets would put too much pressure on the transmission array? Lu Qing asked. No problem. This transmission array may be small, but it can transport 10 living creatures at a time. Including them, there won't be any difference. Kanglan City Lord's words reassured Lu Qing. All right, guard your heart and spirit. I'm about to activate the transmission array. With a soft shout from Kanglan City Lord, he began to cast spells onto the transmission array beneath the jade platform. The entire transmission jade platform suddenly emitted a misty glow. Lu Qing and the others immediately began to guard their heart and spirit. Soon, as the light from the jade platform grew stronger and numerous runes emerged, the entire transmission array began to spin. Eventually, a spatial vortex appeared, releasing a powerful suction from within. Lu Qing and the others' figures suddenly vanished from the jade platform. And just an hour after Lu Qing and the others used the transmission array to leave, a pink cloud appeared above Kanglan City. Pink clouds appeared above Kanglan City. Hong Luan looked at the chaotic city below with a startled expression. Is this really the city where the Hongyun sisters reside? It's quite shabby, isn't it? There was a battle at the primordial spirit realm level here, Miao Yu said blandly. However, he was also somewhat surprised by the residual power of the primordial spirit realm in the city. He originally came to take Mo Hongyun back and to meet the vermin who dared touch his woman. But seeing the current situation, he felt that it wasn't as simple as he had anticipated. What made him more anxious was that he couldn't sense Mo Hongyun's aura in the city. Could it be that he was too late? A battle at the primordial spirit realm level? Hong Luan was slightly shocked. There aren't many primordial spirits left in the Little Tsong realm. Why would they fight? Who knows? Just find someone to ask. Miao Yu casually grabbed the air, and the next moment, an old man, filled with terror, was bound by an invisible force and dragged through the roof, flying into the sky. When he reached the high sky and saw Miao Yu and Hong Luan, he was even more shocked. "Spare me, Senior." The old man was filled with fear and immediately pleaded for his life. Despite being strong in the Golden Core Middle Realm, he was caught and brought to the sky without any resistance. The two before him must be superpowers beyond his imagination and absolutely untouchable. However, Miao Yu didn't even intend to talk to him. His eyes suddenly flashed with two pink lights, which fell into the old man's eyes. The Golden Core old man's body instantly went stiff, his eyes lifeless, and his face showed a pained expression. "Soul-searching technique? It seems my husband is really furious, using even such a forbidden technique directly." Hong Luan felt a slight chill in her heart. The soul-searching technique can cause great harm to the divine soul of the person being subjected to it. At worst, the divine soul suffers severe trauma. At worst, it could be dispersed entirely. Therefore, normally, righteous cultivators are wary of such unethical Taoist skills and won't use them lightly. They would also prevent others from using them and eradicate demons if they see them deployed. As the old man's face twisted continuously, Miao Yu obtained the information he wanted from the man's divine soul. He withdrew his primordial spirit power and stopped the soul search. But by this time, the Golden Core old man already had an imbecilic look, with saliva faintly dripping from the corner of his mouth. It was evident that the divine soul of a mere Golden Core was unable to withstand the primordial spirit power of a high-level expert conducting a soul search. Under severe trauma to his divine soul, he became a fool. Looking at the Golden Core old man in his hand, drooling, Miao Yu showed a trace of disgust. He casually tossed him towards the ground, disregarding whether he would be smashed to death. "Husband, did you find out what happened here? Where did the Hongyun sisters go?" Hong Luan asked. There was a conflict between people from the Nangong family and the Gongsu family, and a direct lineage Taoist from the Gongsu family died here. Miao Yu briefly explained. "The Nangong family and the Gongsu family?" Hong Luan was astonished once again. These two are not ordinary noble families. Even among the 36 upper clans, they are considered powerful families of considerable strength. Even strong sects like their Joyful Union sect must be cautious of them. Why would these two families come into conflict? And her husband said that a direct lineage Taoist from the Gongsu family died here. For a moment, Hong Luan was somewhat shaken. She sensed keenly that the sister named Mo Hongyun seemed to have been embroiled in some major affair. The city lord of this city is a primordial spirit from the Nangong family, and he is also Mo Hongyun's uncle. Mo Hongyun caused some disturbances in the city, ultimately leading to a battle among several primordial spirits from the Nangong and Gongsu families. That direct lineage Taoist from the Gongsu family died in this conflict. Miao Yu spoke slowly, frowning. The situation indeed exceeded his expectations. First, that Mo Hongyun had ties with the Nangong family was something he hadn't known before. But since Mo Hongyun had such a background, why did she not seek help from the Nangong family initially? If he had known this earlier, he might have given the Nangong family a favor and let go of this woman. Could there be some hidden details involved? However, now he somewhat understood why the joyful heart-eroding curse on Mo Hongyun was suddenly lifted. Even his doppelganger ID was quietly wiped out, with no information returned whatsoever. And even using magical treasure, he couldn't deduce anything. If there were a high practitioner from the Nangong family involved, everything would make sense. But with this, Miao Yu became a bit hesitant. If this involves the Nangong family, then he has to handle it with caution. Indeed, the Hongyun sisters are involved in this. Could this be why my husband hurried over? Hearing Miao Yu's words, Hong Luan suddenly realized it. "Husband, what shall we do now? And where did the Hongyun sisters go?" Just as Miao Yu was about to reply, suddenly he felt a shiver in his heart and sharply looked ahead. At this moment, Hong Luan also felt it and turned her head accordingly. Then the two of them saw a flying boat appearing from the distant sky, reaching them in just a moment. High-grade flying boat spiritual artifact. Sensing the might emanating from the flying boat, Miao Yu's expression became grave. A flying boat-shaped spiritual artifact, encompassing both attack and defense, and possessing extreme speed, is even more precious than his Shangyun spiritual artifact. And those who can wield such a magical treasure must not be ordinary powerful individuals. Is it the Miao Yu observer of the Joyful Union sect? Just as Miao Yu observer was cautiously vigilant, a voice emerged from inside the flying boat. Immediately after, 5 or 6 figures emerged from the flying boat. Several of them were still watching him and Hong Luan with great caution. When he saw the leading middle-aged man dressed in an ink-colored magic robe, Miao Yu observer's gaze slightly narrowed. Then he regained his composure and said, "I wondered which esteemed person it was. Turns out it's the 4th ancestor of the Gongshu family. Seems you're here regarding the matter of your family's Taoist dying here." As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the people opposite were all shocked. The middle-aged man in the ink-colored magic robe also narrowed his eyes. From the observer's words, "Does my family's Taoist's death have nothing to do with you? Do you think your direct lineage Taoist was killed at my hands?" Miao Yu observer immediately understood why the people opposite looked at the two of them with hostility as soon as they came out. Of course, he didn't want to take the blame for this. He immediately explained, "There is a misunderstanding. I just arrived in Kanglin City. When I saw the city in ruins and asked the citizens inside, I came to know what had happened. Your Taoist's death has nothing to do with my respect." Oh, the observer, a supreme elder of the Joyful Union sect, a foretribulation primordial spirit great power. Why coincidentally appear in this lower realm small city of Kanglin City? If I remember correctly, the Joyful Union sect doesn't seem to have set up a transmission array in the Little Tsong realm, right? The middle-aged man in an ink-colored magic robe squinted his eyes, still not so easily believing Miao Yu observer's words. The timing of the appearance of the other side was too coincidental. A foretribulation primordial spirit great power suddenly appearing in such a small place like the Little Tsong realm. It's an abnormal event in itself. Not to mention, when the other party first saw their group, there was obviously a sense of surprise. All this made the middle-aged man in the ink-colored magic robe unable to help but suspect Miao Yu observer. My presence here should not concern you. If you're still in doubt, why not ask around the city yourself? Check if it was indeed my respect who killed your Mo family's direct lineage Taoist. Miao Yu observer, however, did not reveal his purpose of descending to the lower realm. Although he feared the Gongshu family, he wasn't to the point of being overly submissive. This Gongshu's 4th ancestor's realm at most was equivalent to his. If it came to fighting, he might not necessarily fall behind. The middle-aged man in an ink-colored magic robe saw Miao Yu observer looking relaxed, causing him to hesitate. He thought for a moment and instructed the people behind him, "Go down to the Heavenly Mechanism Workshop in the city and inquire what exactly happened." "Yes, ancestor." Immediately, 2 people flew downward. The city protection array of Kanglin City had previously been breached by Gong Shuyu. The Kanglin City Lord, who presided over the array, had also left. Additionally, the guards in the City Lord Mansion were all in the process of healing. Thus, the 2 of them descended into the city without any hindrance. It didn't take long before they returned with someone. "Ancestor, this person says she is the manager of the Heavenly Mechanism Workshop and she knows what happened yesterday." The one brought back was indeed one of the trusted aides of the Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Mechanism, the charming woman. Luo Yen pays respect to the ancestor. The charming woman felt the aura of the surrounding people, each one enough to make her heart tremble with fear. She instantly understood that these people in front of her, each individual's cultivation, were far superior to hers, and none were someone she could provoke. "You're from the Heavenly Mechanism Workshop in Kanglin City? If I remember correctly, wasn't it Gong Shu Qian who was in charge here?" The middle-aged man's brow furrowed in the ink-colored magic robe. Before coming down, He had learned about the situation of Kanglan City in the Little Tsang realm from his clan. The Pavilion Master has been taken to the City Lord Mansion by the City Lord, along with 2 Primordial Spirit High Lords. They have also been taken to the City Lord Mansion. The charming woman cautiously replied. They're not dead. The expression of the middle-aged man in an ink-colored magic robe changed. Tell me, what exactly is going on? The matter is like this, ancestor. Luo Yen quickly recounted the events that had occurred in the city over the past few days. Starting from the treasure tower suddenly employing a mysterious talisman maker to seize the talisman market in the city with a large number of cheap talismans. They kept talking about yesterday's primordial spirit realm battle, and how young Master Yu was severely injured by the mysterious talisman maker, then personally killed by the City Lord. Finally, they mentioned that the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion Master and others were all taken away to the City Lord Mansion by the City Lord. In their words, there wasn't the slightest exaggeration. Everything was said in the simplest terms, presenting the events completely. The flamboyant woman knew well that the people before her were powerhouses beyond her imagination. Every fluctuation of her divine soul couldn't possibly escape their sensing. Speaking carelessly or trying to be clever could likely bring misfortune upon herself. After listening to the flamboyant woman's account, everyone remained silent for a while. Nobody expected that such tumultuous events would occur in the Little Kanglan City. The incident about seizing the talisman market was trivial, not worth mentioning in their eyes. But the subsequent primordial spirit realm battle made everyone's heart involuntarily skip a beat. You mean Gong Shu Kai and the others were defeated because Nangong Yuanwu exploded a spiritual artifact, catching them off guard. And Gong Shu Yu was faced head-on and defeated by a mysterious young golden core. Even the man in the ink-colored magic robe seemed a bit surprised. Originally, he thought Gong Shu Yu, with 2 primordial spirit realm followers and a guardian jade talisman for protection, would be untouchable by ordinary primordial spirit realm cultivators. Therefore, his death must have been related to a very formidable adversary. But he never expected the most direct cause was Nangong Yuanwu detonating a spiritual artifact. Yes, Patriarch, the flamboyant woman replied respectfully. What is the origin of the young golden core who defeated Gong Shu Yu? On the Gong Shu family side, a red-haired youth asked somewhat anxiously. I don't know the origin of that young golden core either, only that he was the mysterious talisman maker invited by the treasure tower. It's said that he recently came to Kanglan City from the outside world. But where exactly he came from and what his identity is, there's no way to find out. How could this be? The red-haired youth was somewhat shaken. He hadn't imagined that Gong Shu Yu, one of his competitors, would be defeated by another young golden core. He was usually dismissive of Gong Shu Yu, thinking that his Emperor Heart technique was all form and no substance. But in truth, he still had considerable respect for Gong Shu Yu's strength. If they really fought, even if confident, he reckoned he had at most a 60% chance of winning. But now he heard Gong Shu Yu was directly defeated by a young golden core, crushed completely without any ability to retaliate. He found it hard to believe. Even if the opponent was at golden core realm perfection, Gong Shu Yu shouldn't have lost so utterly. Thinking this, he couldn't help but ask again, "Are you sure that person is at the golden core realm?" Well, the flamboyant woman hesitated. She naturally wasn't sure, but her intuition told her that the mysterious talisman maker didn't possess the unique aura belonging to a primordial spirit great power. All right, haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? The man in the ink-colored magic robe said lightly. Whether he's at the golden core realm, we'll know once we've caught him. Isn't that the City Lord Mansion over there? I want to see what gives Nangong Yuanwu the audacity to kill the Taoist of my Gongshu family. With that, the man in the ink-colored magic robe put away the flying boat beside him and flew towards the City Lord Mansion at the center of Kanglan City. The red-haired youth and others quickly followed. Husband, what should we do? The Red Simurg divine soul transmitted. Of course we follow. With the Gongshu family and Nangong family clashing, how can we miss such a spectacle? Miao Yu hadn't realized that so many things had happened in Kanglan City. Since he heard that Emo Hongyun also seemed to have gone to the City Lord Mansion, He certainly couldn't leave now. Earlier he had been hesitant, wondering if he should give up since Mo Hongyun was related to the Nangong family. But seeing the Gongshu family preparing to conflict with the Nangong family, he thought perhaps he could take advantage of the situation and fish in troubled waters. If he could take Mo Hongyun away, his Dao path would still hold hope. Elsewhere, in a certain valley of the heavenly origin great world, several figures suddenly appeared with a flash of light. Is this the heavenly origin great world? Lu Qing sensed the surrounding environment, and then he was stunned. At this moment they seemed to be in a valley. Birds chirped, and the fragrance of flowers was rich in the air. As far as the eye could see, there were many plants Lu Qing didn't recognize. However, he could tell that these plants had all reached the level of spiritual materials. If placed in his home world, they would be considered precious medicines by those in the postnatal and innate realms. Some among them had a rather high grade, judging by the medicinal aura they emitted, they would likely benefit even those in the golden core realm. What shocked him even more was the spiritual energy in the surrounding heaven and earth. Not only was it incredibly dense, but its quality was astonishingly high. Could it be that just the quality of the spiritual energy in this heavenly origin great world is almost at the level of spiritual charm in lower-grade spirit stones? Lu Qing was in shock. What also amazed him was the inexplicable and mysterious nature contained in the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. This was something neither his home world nor the Little Tsang realm had. But it was precisely this mysterious nature that gave Lu Qing an intuitive feeling. For a long period to come, he would no longer have to worry about spiritual energy. No wonder those cultivators from outside would rather pay a high teleportation fee just to enter the heavenly origin great world. Just the density of the spiritual energy here, being able to cultivate here continuously, would already be worthwhile. Not to mention, there are various mystical opportunities in this heavenly origin great world. If one is lucky enough to gain even a little, it would be immensely rewarding. Lu Qing felt a sense of enlightenment rise in his heart. True to its name as a vast great world, it was indeed incredible. He had just arrived, and merely glimpsing a small aspect had already allowed him to sense the magic of this world. Lu Xiaodao, this place is called the Valley of 100 Blossoms, and it is a place where our Nangong family cultivates medicinal herbs. The Kanglan City Lord, no, it should be Nangong Yuanwu, spoke at this moment. The Valley of 100 Blossoms, I see. No wonder the wood aura here is so dense, and spiritual plants are everywhere. Lu Qing suddenly understood. He was thinking that even for the heavenly origin great world, the quality of the spiritual plants in a single valley being this high and spirit grasses and medicines of not low grade being seen everywhere was a bit exaggerated. If it was a sacred place specifically used by the Nangong family to cultivate spiritual medicine, then it made much more sense. Who goes there, daring to intrude on the Nangong family's Valley of 100 Blossoms? Just then, a loud shout came, followed by a figure flying in from outside. Hand holding a long sword, his aura was imposing, clearly a late-stage Golden Core realm expert. It's me, Nangong Yuanwu replied nonchalantly. So it's Uncle Yuanwu. I thought some petty thief had snuck in to steal herbs. Upon seeing Nangong Yuanwu, the Golden Core realm cultivator quickly withdrew his aura and bowed in salute. After saluting, he was somewhat curious. But Uncle Yuanwu, weren't you cultivating in solitude in the lower Little Tsang realm? How come you had time to return? I recently ended a period of closed-door cultivation with a small breakthrough, feeling restless, so I wanted to come back and take a look. Uncle Yuanwu has broken through? The Golden Core realm cultivator was both surprised and delighted. Surprised because he knew that Uncle Yuanwu had gone to the lower realm due to the impending tribulation of his primordial spirit and lacking confidence in crossing it. Coupled with the annoyances within the family, he chose to cultivate quietly in the Little Tsang realm. Unexpectedly, when he returned, he had already made a breakthrough. The delight stemmed from the fact that with Uncle Yuanwu's breakthrough, the Nangong family had gained another one tribulation primordial spirit, fortifying the family's foundation. In the upcoming competition for ranking among the 36 upper clans, they would have more confidence. Thinking of this, the Golden Core Realm cultivator immediately congratulated him. Congratulations to Uncle Yuanwu for successfully crossing the tribulation and greatly extending your life. Enough. Don't flatter me. Nangong Yuanwu waved his hand. Yes. That Golden Core Realm cultivator bowed and then retreated. He naturally noticed Lu Qing and Mo Hongyun, feeling curious. However, since Nangong Yuanwu did not mention them, he dared not ask. As they were brought by Uncle Yuanwu, they must surely be without issue. Lu Xiaodao, what are your plans next? Why not visit our Nangong family as a guest for a while? Someone as young and talented as you, a peerless genius, would surely be greatly loved by our ancestors. After the Golden Core Realm cultivator left, Nangong Yuanwu asked Lu Qing, "Thank you for your kind invitation, City Lord. However, I have just arrived in the Heavenly Origin Great World and wish to travel and gain some knowledge first. Once I have some free time in the future, I will certainly come to visit and trouble you." Lu Qing politely declined. With so many secrets on him, he did not wish to appear casually before those top primordial spirit great powers. If they became interested and wanted to study him, he would have no ability to resist. I see, that's truly a pity. Nangong Yuanwu, upon hearing this, didn't insist, expressing slight regret. By the way, City Lord, aren't you afraid that by leaving Kanglan City like this, the Gongsu family and Miao you will release the Black Stone prison inmates and vent their anger on the citizens of Kanglan City? At this point, Lu Qing remembered a question and asked. Don't worry about that, Lu Xiaodao. Nangong Yuanwu smiled and said, the method to open the Black Stone prison is known only to me. If they try to forcibly crack it, it will trigger an array explosion, and no one inside will survive. As for venting their anger by slaughtering the citizens of Kanglan City, this kind of behavior is a major taboo. If the Gongsu family truly dares to commit such a heinous act, I will definitely lodge a complaint with the Holy Alliance. By that time, even though the Gongsu family is one of the 36 upper clans, they will surely not get away with it and will face punishment. The Holy Alliance? Lu Qing was moved upon hearing this term. May I ask the City Lord, what is this Holy Alliance? Ah, I almost forgot to tell you, Lu Xiaodao, now that you have arrived in the Heavenly Origin Great World, there are some rules you need to be aware of. Otherwise, if you were to offend any taboos, it would be troublesome. Nangong Yuanwu said. I will listen carefully, Lu Qing replied. Actually, in the Heavenly Origin Great World, there are not many rules that a cultivator must follow, but two are crucial. The first is not to wantonly slaughter the innocent. Conflicts between cultivators are permissible, but they must not affect too many common people. Especially high realm experts, they must not, relying on their profound cultivation, arbitrarily massacre lower-level cultivators. If one dares to act recklessly, once discovered, the Holy Alliance will intervene to apprehend and penalize. The second rule is not to collude with the Demon Clan. Compared to the first, the second rule is the most important. If found colluding with the Demon Clan, it is considered a great crime. At worst, one's divine soul is extracted and imprisoned in a divine soul prison to endure purgatorial agony. In severe cases, they are directly killed, body and soul completely obliterated, without even the qualification for reincarnation. As for the Holy Alliance, it is an alliance formed by the various righteous forces of our Heavenly Origin Great World in response to the Demon Clan. The Holy Alliance usually does not interfere in matters of sex and noble families. But should any cultivator dare to violate these two rules, the Holy Alliance will take action. At that time, unless one is a supreme expert with deep studies in the Space Tao and has comprehended the boundary-breaking teleportation divine power, otherwise it would be difficult to resist capture by the Holy Alliance. So, young Master Lu, during your travels, please remember these 2 points. I will remember the teachings of the City Lord. After listening to Nangong Yuanwu's words, Lu Qing inexplicably felt a sense of familiarity. This Holy Alliance of the Heavenly Origin Great World is quite similar to the Holy Mountain of his homeland. Except that in his world, there was not such a massive demon force to contend with. The primary duty of the Holy Mountain was more to restrain powerful cultivators from persecuting the weak. However, he was very willing to abide by these two rules. Although he was not a person of this world, he also did not like bullying the weak. He was indifferent towards the demon clan's forces and naturally had no intention of colluding with them. After all, within his leaving fire tripod, a wisp of a demon cultivator's divine soul was sealed, and he knew what kind of beings they were. And Lu Xiaodao, not only did you save our lives this time, you also helped Hong Yun break the joyful heart-eroding curse and freed her from Miao Yu's control. I don't have any substantial gift to thank you with. Hong Yun said you like spirit stones. So within this storage ring, there's a collection of spirit stones I've accumulated over the years. Please accept it. With that, Nangong Yuanwu took out a simple ring and handed it to Lu Qing. How can the city lord? Lu Qing hastily waved his hands. You have already helped me a great deal by bringing me here. How can I further accept your things? Why be so polite, Lu Xiaodao? However, Nangong Yuanwu directly tossed the storage ring over. The grace of saving a life is greater than heaven, and how could bringing you to the upper realm be a sufficient repayment? It's just a few spirit stones. Please accept them, Lu Xiaodao. Lu Qing caught the storage ring, seeing Nangong Yuanwu's firm attitude. He could only say, then I will shamelessly accept them. After storing the ring, Lu Qing bowed to Nangong Yuanwu and Mo Hongyun. City Lord Tower Master, now that we've safely arrived in the upper realm, it's time for me to take my leave as well. Are you leaving already, Mr. Lu? Mo Hongyun asked. Indeed, having come to the heavenly origin great world, I wish to take a good trip around. It's not convenient to stay long. Mr. Lu, for helping me. You've offended the Gongsu family and Miao Yu, so please be extra careful during your travels. Mo Hongyun reminded him with some worry. I will be careful to hide my identity, and if Tower Master plans to leave the heavenly origin great world, please also take care. The talisman I gave you, don't let it leave your side. With it, hiding your identity will be easier. I will always carry it. Mo Hongyun nodded earnestly. Then, Tower Master, City Lord, I take my leave now. Take care, Lu Xiaodao. I await your return at the Nangong family, Nangong Yuanwu said. Lu Qing nodded lightly, then his body turned into a stream of light, carrying little Li and the 5 elements, soaring into the sky, flying out of the Valley of 100 Blossoms. The branch family members of the Nangong family, guarding the Valley of 100 Blossoms, had already received Nangong Yuanwu's message ahead of time. They did not stop Lu Qing, allowing him to leave freely. Mo Hongyun stood in place, quietly watching the direction in which Lu Qing had left, without moving for a long time. Nangong Yuanwu saw this scene and sighed silently. He could see that Hongyun, having gone through these events, probably had developed different thoughts about Lu Xiaodao. But he could also see that this Lu Xiaodao was a talent favored by the heavens, with a heart toward the Tao that was exceedingly steadfast. Afraid that his heart did not harbor any desires for romance or passions. Hongyun's feelings would ultimately fall into emptiness, unable to receive any response. Moreover, he had a peculiar feeling. This time, Lu Xiaodao's journey would likely stir up a storm in the heavenly origin great world in the future. Hongyun, where do you want to go next? Anywhere is fine, as long as I can leave the heavenly origin great world. I also want to wander around like Mr. Lu to broaden my knowledge and practice cultivation properly along the way. These past years I have wasted too much time. Only by cultivating to the primordial spirit realm early and fully mastering the Xianin Jade body can I return to this heavenly origin great world. Mo Hongyun said determinedly, looking in the direction Lu Qing had left. Very well, I will arrange for you to go to the Guiyuan great world, where the cultivation conditions are not inferior to ours. With your talent, it might not take long for you to break through. Alright, to use the cross-region great world-level transmission array, the cost is substantial. Let me cover the spirit stones for that myself. Hongyun, you. With Nangong Yuanwu's help, Mo Hongyun set foot on the transmission array heading to the Guiyuan great world. Meanwhile, after leaving the Valley of 100 Blossoms, Lu Qing transformed into a stream of light, casually choosing a direction and flying along it. During the flight, he also experienced the differences between this great world and small world. After leaving the Valley of 100 Blossoms, the richness of spiritual energy decreased significantly. Lu Qing immediately noticed this change. Of course, he was not surprised. Since the Valley of 100 Blossoms was a place nurtured by the Nangong family for spiritual medicine, it probably was a treasured land itself. And it surely had arrays similar to the spirit-gathering array set up within it. It's quite normal for the spiritual energy to be denser there than outside. However, even upon reaching the outside, the density of spiritual energy in the surrounding heavens and earth was still very impressive. It was not inferior to what he had experienced in the cave mansion while staying at the treasure tower. More importantly, the quality of spiritual energy in this heavenly origin great world far surpassed that in the Little Tsong realm. And this was merely the spiritual energy scattered in the heavens and earth, already so dense. If it were those famous mountains and rivers, cave heaven-blessed lands, one could hardly imagine how abundant its spiritual energy was, and to what extent it could reach. Apart from spiritual energy, another direct sensation was. Lu Qing discovered that the heaven and earth rules in this heavenly origin great world were much stronger than those in the small worlds. This also caused his flying speed, transformed into a stream of light, to be greatly reduced compared to usual, not even reaching 1/10 of the original speed. Of course, with Lu Qing's perfect golden core, even if it was only 1/10 of the original flying speed. In the eyes of other golden core realm cultivators, it was still extremely fast, comparable to the speed at which they could control a magical treasure. I wonder if I were to operate the void flying boat, what kind of speed would it reach in this heavenly origin great world, touching the extreme speed of this world? This thought suddenly popped into Lu Qing's mind. Of course, he merely thought about it in his mind and did not act on it. The origin of the void flying boat is mysterious, a component of a legendary Tao artifact. Cultivators in small worlds with limited knowledge might not recognize its origins. But in this heavenly origin great world, where hidden talents lay and strong masters were numerous, the depths could indeed be said to be immeasurable. If he were to flaunt the void flying boat all over, who knows if some mysterious expert would detect its profundity and attempt to seize it. In that case, it would be a true major trouble. So Lu Qing had already made up his mind. Unless it was a matter of life and death, he would never easily use the void flying boat. Flying in the sky, Lu Qing continuously used the divine soul power to sense this world's heaven and earth rules and adapt to them. Just as he was passing through a cloud layer once again, suddenly, he felt a chill in his heart. A wisp of coldness rose from his heart. He looked up sharply, only to see a strange bird rapidly flying towards him. Its sharp talons exuded strands of cold light, clawing towards him. This strange bird possesses an incredibly strong ability to conceal its aura. I couldn't even detect it in advance. Lu Qing's heart tightened with caution. However, his reaction was extremely quick. He formed his fingers into a sword, and a burst of sword chi soared into the sky. Feeling the sharp killing intent emanating from the sword chi, a sudden panic appeared in the eyes of the strange bird. It had never expected this inconspicuous human young man, at only the golden core third turn, to unleash such terrifying sword chi. It desperately flapped its wings, frantically trying to dodge. But the speed of Lu Qing's sword chi was incredibly swift, and the strange bird had initially been charging at high speed. So it couldn't evade in time and was slashed into two halves by the sword chi, blood spilling through the sky, a demon core dropping from within. Lu Qing swiftly passed through, collecting the bisected strange bird's corpse and demon core into the leaving fire tripod. Then, altering his stance, he descended toward a mountain range below, quickly searching for a cave to slip into. After knocking unconscious a nest of leopard-like spiritual beasts, temporarily occupying their lair, Lu Qing summoned an array plate to conceal the cave. Only then did he sit cross-legged, exhaling as he drew out the strange bird's corpse from before. Feeling the powerful aura emanating from the strange bird's corpse, the largest creature in the leopard nest beside him stiffened briefly and then truly fainted. Lu Qing chuckled gently, then began to scrutinize the strange bird's corpse before him. To be honest, he had been taken aback. The strange bird appeared very suddenly, seeming to be hiding within the clouds, completely merging its aura with the mist. Even he hadn't noticed anything amiss right away. Fortunately, the strange bird's strength wasn't very strong, only at the Golden Core middle stage. If it had been a powerful demon beast at the late-stage Golden Core, he might have suffered a bit. It seems that in the heavenly origin great world, one must be even more cautious while traveling. Lu Qing warned himself internally. Even while flying in the sky, one could encounter a strange bird capable of concealing its aura. This time he was strong enough so nothing happened. But there's no guarantee he'd have such luck next time. Master! Just as Lu Qing was reflecting, the 5 elements nudged against his clothing hem. What is it? Lu Qing turned his head. Can I eat the strange bird's corpse? The 5 elements pointed with its tail tip at the 2 halves of the strange bird's corpse. You want to eat this? Lu Qing was surprised. Yes, I can feel that eating it will benefit me. Lu Qing pondered. He naturally understood that demon beasts and spiritual beasts could cultivate and evolve by devouring blood meals. Even in his homeland, the distinction between demon beasts and spiritual beasts was determined by whether they cultivated through consuming blood meals. Those fond of devouring blood meals would be affected by blood evil qi, becoming relatively more violent, hence called demon beasts. Those primarily absorbing nature's spiritual energy and comprehending the law would have a much gentler disposition, thus called spiritual beasts. In truth, there wasn't a fundamental difference between the two, merely different paths of cultivation. This strange bird, being a Golden Core realm demon beast, had its physical body filled with immense essence qi. The 5 elements craving for it was quite normal. Lu Qing contemplated whether to allow it to embark on the path of devouring blood meals. However, he quickly recalled that during the crossing of the tribulation, the 5 elements only faced 8 tribulation thunders. The potential demonstrated was somewhat inferior to Little Li's. Perhaps cultivating the path of devouring blood meals might compensate for its foundational shortcomings. As for the notion that demon beasts on the path of devouring blood meals would be relatively violent, it wasn't a concern for Lu Qing. The 5 elements had long been enslaved by his divine soul, exhibiting absolute obedience towards him. The bit of blood evil qi produced by devouring blood meals couldn't influence it. Little Li, do you want to eat this? Though he had decided in his mind, Lu Qing still asked Little Li first. No, let that stinky snake eat it. Unexpectedly, Little Li looked at the strange bird's corpse with disdain. It only liked to eat fish and had no interest in these bizarre things. Well then, 5 elements, you can take this corpse, but the strange bird's demon core I can't give you, I have a use for it. Yes, master. Delighted, the 5 elements grew larger and swallowed the strange bird's corpse whole. Then it reverted to its original form, lying to the side, beginning the refinement and absorption of the strange bird's essence qi. Lu Qing watched thoughtfully. In his homeland, the 5 elements never showed such a craving for the physical bodies of other demon beasts and spiritual beasts. Was it a new change after refining the dragon turtle's bloodline? Or was it because the demon beasts and spiritual beasts in his homeland were too weak to spark its interest? After pondering for a moment, Lu Qing withdrew his heart and spirit, letting the 5 elements refine the strange bird's corpse. He then took out several items. There were 2 storage bags and an ancient-looking ring. They were the 2 storage bags given by Mo Hongyun and the storage ring from Nangong Yuanwu. Unfortunately, I didn't dare to take the storage bags from Gong Shuyu and those 2 primordial spirit realm cultivators. Looking at the storage treasures before him, Lu Qing felt a twinge of regret. Earlier, when he defeated Gong Shuyu and captured the 2 unconscious primordial spirit realm members of the Gongsu family into the city, he actually had the opportunity to take their storage treasures. But after weighing the situation for a while, he ultimately chose not to do so. After all, he didn't know whether the Gongsu family had set traps on those storage treasures or any treasures inside them. If there is a tracking secret technique left on it, and he is not aware of it, It would be foolish to be found and know nothing about it at the time. So, for safety's sake, he ultimately didn't touch the storage artifacts of those three people. Although treasures are tempting, he surely needs to cultivate in the heavenly origin great world for quite a time next. He cannot leave such a big hidden danger due to momentary greed. Picking up one of the storage bags, Lu Qing released his divine soul power and probed inside. If he remembered correctly, this storage bag should have been left behind by Master Chiu. Master Chiu had already been killed by Mo Hongyun, so the storage bag naturally became an ownerless item. Lu Qing's divine soul power easily entered it. His expression turned a bit surprised. This Master Chiu is quite wealthy. Does the treasure tower treat him so well? Or did he embezzle it all? Lu Qing saw that Master Chiu's storage bag contained many talismans, magic artifacts, magical treasures, elixirs, various spirit grasses and spiritual medicines, and refining materials, along with jade scrolls and other miscellaneous items. It's safe to say it was all-encompassing, with a variety of items. As for the talismans and magical treasures refined by Master Chiu, Lu Qing did not look closely. Instead, he found the few jade scrolls, the spirit grasses and spiritual medicines, and refining materials more interesting. Suddenly, his expression changed, and a square-foot brocade box appeared in his hand. So heavy! Lu Qing raised an eyebrow. He had thought it would be some kind of precious spiritual medicine or treasure inside. It seemed he had guessed wrong. With a trace of curiosity, Lu Qing opened the brocade box. In the next moment, a gem-like brilliance radiated from within. When Lu Qing saw the contents, he couldn't help but take a gentle breath. Inside was a whole box of neatly arranged spirit stones, all of which were middle grade. Roughly estimated, there were at least 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones in this brocade box. It seems this explains Master Chiu's rebellion and the cause of the demonic qi outbreak in the treasure tower. Seeing the spirit stones in the brocade box, Lu Qing immediately understood. Though Master Chiu's status in the treasure tower wasn't low, he couldn't have amassed so many spirit stones. A person as stingy and greedy as him wouldn't make a move without profit. Without enough incentives, he wouldn't have risked causing demonic qi in the treasure tower. Now it seemed these spirit stones in the brocade box were the incentive. But Heavenly Mechanism Workshop is really generous, giving out thousands of middle-grade spirit stones in one go. Lu Qing was amazed, then delighted. Heavenly Mechanism Workshop's generosity benefited him now. With the thousands of middle-grade spirit stones from Master Chiu, plus what he had recently earned, he thought he should have a small fortune among the Golden Core Realm experts in the Heavenly Origin Great World now. Lu Qing thought joyfully. Oh right. There's also the storage magical treasures of the Tower Master and the City Lord. Lu Qing picked up another storage bag and a storage ring. He recalled that what Mo Hongyun and Nangong Yuanwu gave him was also spirit stones. After Lu Qing used his divine soul power to inspect the remaining storage bag and storage ring, he suddenly became a bit dazed. After more than 10 breaths, he came back to his senses. He murmured, "Now it's not just a small fortune anymore." In the storage bag given by Mo Hongyun, Lu Qing estimated there were at least 5,000 middle-grade spirit stones. And although there weren't as many in the storage ring given by Nangong Yuanwu, there were still a total of 3,000 middle-grade spirit stones. It's understandable, given that this primordial spirit great power, despite being a city lord, must also have substantial cultivation expenses. The spirit stones accumulated were not as numerous as the shrewd Mo Hongyun's. But this way, along with what he originally earned, Lu Qing now had over 10,000 middle-grade spirit stones. More than 11,500. This was a fortune. Thinking back, not long ago he was worried about having enough spirit stones to stay at an inn. Now, holding over 10,000 middle-grade spirit stones, Lu Qing felt his heart surge. After a while, Lu Qing calmed his emotions. At the same time, he silently warned himself not to get carried away. He estimated that his current spirit stone savings were not just significant among the Golden Core Realm, but even among the primordial spirit great power, he wouldn't be considered poor. If others knew he possessed so many spirit stones, Even a primordial spirit great power might not resist the urge to rob him. So, he needed to remain low profile and not flaunt his wealth. This wasn't his home world. He no longer had that invincible authority. Even a casually passing primordial spirit great power was not someone he could handle. If he was too ostentatious and attracted an unstoppable enemy, it would truly be a case of tragic downfall. Ah Qing, what's making you so happy, grinning like that? Little Li, nearby, couldn't help but ask upon seeing Lu Qing's silly smile. Little Li, we've hit the jackpot this time. Lu Qing hugged Little Li, rubbing its head vigorously to express his joy. The little guy rolled his eyes several times at him for the rough treatment. But Little Li became curious too. Hit the jackpot? Did that woman and the city lord give you a lot of spirit stones? Yeah, the spirit stones from the Tower Master and the city lord, plus what I earned before. Can you guess how many spirit stones we have now? Lu Qing couldn't help but tease Little Li. How many? Could it be 4,000 or 5,000 middle-grade spirit stones? Little Li's eyes lit up. No, no, no. Lu Qing shook his finger. We now have more than 11,500 middle-grade spirit stones. 11,500 middle-grade spirit stones. Upon hearing the number, Little Li's eyes widened. After entering the Little Tsang realm, although it rarely went out, it knew how staggering this number was. Ah Qing, did we really hit the jackpot? Little Li mumbled. Yes, the Tower Master gave the most spirit stones. A total of more than 6,000 middle-grade spirit stones. Lu Qing included the spirit stones from Master Qi's storage bag under Mo Hongyun's account. After all, Master Qi's storage bag was also handed to him by Mo Hongyun. That woman is truly wealthy. Little Li couldn't help but exclaim. Oh right, Little Li, this is for you. Lu Qing suddenly picked up the storage ring and took out a piece of refined iron. After melting it with true fire, he forged it into a silvery magic artifact chain. Then he hung the storage ring, wearing it around Little Li's neck. This storage ring has a pretty large space. You can use it to store your things, since you're not used to using storage bags. Inside the ring, I've already placed 100 middle-grade spirit stones. You can use them at will when cultivating. Little Li was stunned for a moment, looking at the storage ring hung around its neck. Hearing Lu Qing's words, it quickly said, Ah Qing, you want me to use spirit stones for cultivation? Isn't that too extravagant? What's there to be afraid of? We have plenty of spirit stones now, Lu Qing laughed. Spirit stones may be nice, but the most important thing is converting them into our own strength. Otherwise, they're just external possessions. In the heavenly origin great world, spiritual energy is dense and inherently contains unique meaning. For our regular cultivation, it's sufficient. But compared to the spiritual charm in middle-grade spirit stones, it's lacking substantially. So, if you feel like you've hit a bottleneck in cultivation, just use the spirit stones directly for cultivation. We'll likely be here for some time now. Ah Qing, you want to go into closed cultivation here? Didn't you say you wanted to travel first? Little Li asked, confused. That was just to outsiders. I didn't expect the Tower Master and the others to give us so many spirit stones. Since we're not currently short of resources for cultivation, naturally enhancing our strength is the priority. Also, the 5 elements will probably take some time to digest. You did say you're about to break through, right? If so, let's go into closed cultivation here. Lu Qing's primary goal in entering the heavenly origin great world is to enhance his cultivation. Broadening horizons is just secondary. Now Mo Hongyun and the others have suddenly bestowed such a large amount of immortal Dao resources. Of course, he should first digest them and convert them into his own strength. Heavenly origin great world, Gongshu family. On a certain gigantic mountain peak, spiritual energy coils around, with spiritual cranes and spirit butterflies dancing. It completely presents the appearance of an immortal blessed land. Yet in this auspicious and blessed land, someone is filled with a somber expression, their eyes full of cold killer intent. Have you still not found out the origin of the evil demon who harmed young Master Yu, nor where he escaped to? A middle-aged woman, beautiful and noble, asked coldly. Reporting back, madam, a guard cautiously replied. That evil demon's origin is extremely mysterious. No matter how we investigated, we could only find out he is an outsider cultivator. He entered the Little Tsong realm by taking the transmission array from Star Sky City. But his specific background and who he learned from, we just can't uncover. As for his whereabouts, ever since he entered Kanglan City's City Lord Mansion, no one has ever seen him. I believe he must have used the transmission array in the City Lord Mansion to enter the upper realm from the Valley of 100 Blossoms. But despite our thorough investigations over the past 2 years, searching all the cities within hundreds of thousands of miles around the Valley of 100 Blossoms, we have not found any trace of that evil demon appearing. Therefore, I believe there's a great possibility that the evil demon either hid within the Nangong family, or used the transmission array to escape to another region, or even left our upper realm altogether. Buzz! At these words, the noble middle-aged woman's body trembled, and a cold aura spread out. The ground immediately froze with a layer of frost, even on the guard kneeling before her, covering him in a layer of white frost, icicles hanging from his eyebrows. However, the guard dared not move, nor dared to channel energy to resist. He merely relied on the power of the physical body to forcibly endure it all. A bunch of useless people. The middle-aged woman's voice was icily cold. Given 2 years, you found nothing at all. What good are you? The guard dared not speak, knowing that ever since young master you died, the madam's mood has been erratic. At this point, if he justified himself, it might invite greater punishment, maybe even cost him his life here. The middle-aged woman's aura persisted until the guard was covered in thick ice, his physical body on the verge of cracking. It was only then did she slightly restrain herself. Her expression turned indifferent again. And what about the master? What does he say? After so long, has he also found nothing? The master has been in seclusion and has not given us any instructions. The guard replied, his voice trembling somewhat. The middle-aged woman's aura vibrated again. Humph, another useless one. Dare not even seek revenge for his own son's death. Only knows how to cultivate in seclusion every day. No matter how much you cultivate, do you think the family head position will fall into your hands? And those old undying ones in the family, all a bunch of cowardly, useless wastes. The direct lineage Taoist of the family died at the hands of the Nangong people, yet no one dares to wage war against the Nangong family. Forget it. Since none of you will avenge my Yuer, then I, a mere woman, will take charge for my own son. Nangong Yuanwu, you dared kill my son. I swear I will make sure you are destroyed both body and soul, never to reincarnate. And that evil demon, no matter where you escape to, I will definitely find you. I will refine your divine soul into a lamp, offered before my Yuer's spirit tablet, suffering eternal torment, repenting to my son day and night, listening to the middle-aged woman's resentful words as if from the netherworld and the terrifying aura from her body. The guard was terrified. Yet before he could react, he was already completely frozen by that exceedingly cold aura. Lu Qing had no idea that in the Gongshu family, a woman harbored such immense hatred toward him. Within a certain unknown cave, he was immersed in cultivation. His aura was subdued, like that of a stone statue. He didn't know how much time passed before Lu Qing's aura suddenly shook slightly. Then he slowly awoke. Finally, the fourth transition is complete. Lu Qing's eyes held a hint of emotion. In this cave, after more than 2 years of secluded training, he finally raised his cultivation from the initial stage of the fourth transition to the realm of fourth transition perfection. Next, with a bit more consolidation, he could begin attempting a breakthrough to step into the Golden Core fifth turn realm. However, after entering the fifth turn realm, I fear I can no longer remain in seclusion here. Lu Qing furrowed his brows. Though the cave he was in was merely the den of the strongest spiritual leopards at the Foundation Establishment realm, the spiritual energy in this heavenly origin great world was already extremely abundant. This ordinary cave, though simple, provided enough spiritual energy for him and little Li to cultivate for a long time. However, as cultivation rose, something Lu Qing could not ignore needed consideration. That is, his perfect golden core skill has only been deduced up to the 6th transition currently. The realms beyond it can't be deduced for now. The reason lies within the perfect golden core skill itself. Originally, it was something Lu Qing deduced and created from the Taoist chapter granted by the Heavenly Tao after successfully crossing the tribulation back in the day, and combined with various cultivation techniques at his disposal. But in his hometown world, the number of profound cultivation techniques he could obtain was very limited. Reaching the primordial spirit realm, there were only a scarce few techniques available. The perfect golden core skill deduced as sustenance from these materials reached only the 6th turn before it could go no further. To deduce the cultivation technique after the golden core 6th turn of the perfect golden core skill, I must seek out more cultivation techniques, learn by analogy, and only then it might be possible. Lu Qing's perfect golden core was too special. A complete world, under various coincidences, might have the chance to nurture one. And even then, it's only a possibility. If there isn't an extraordinarily talented genius, along with various coincidences. Some worlds, from birth to extinction, may never nurture a perfect golden core. Such a special golden core doesn't have a specific cultivation method. Therefore, Lu Qing could only rely on superpower, slowly deducing and creating his own cultivation method. However, although superpower is magical, it's not omnipotent and cannot create something from nothing. To deduce a technique, one needs sufficient other techniques for comparison and reference to create a new technique. Back in his hometown world, the techniques Lu Qing mastered could barely support his deduction of the 6th transition of the perfect golden core skill. Trying to deduce the 7th transition was beyond his strength, and he couldn't deduce it at all. At that time, Lu Qing knew it was because his accumulation was insufficient. This was one of the reasons he wanted to leave his hometown world. Staying in his hometown, not only his cultivation was difficult to improve, but even the deduction of techniques stagnated. Only by going out, experiencing and learning more profound techniques, could he create the subsequent techniques of the perfect golden core skill. After this breakthrough, I will officially travel through the heavenly origin great world. After making the decision, Lu Qing looked at Little Li and the 5 elements beside him. Little Li had already reached the perfect state of the 1st transition of the golden core a year ago. Now, he was only a step away from entering the 2nd transition of the golden core realm. As for 5 elements, in the past 2 years, it had been in constant slumber, digesting the carcass of the strange bird. The aura on its body was also steadily strengthening. When it wakes up, its cultivation will surely improve significantly as well. When he breaks through, these 2 little ones will probably wake up too. Lu Qing closed his eyes again, entering deep cultivation. As for that nest of spiritual leopards, they had long been locked up in the leaving fire tripod by him temporarily. After all, he had taken over their nest, so he didn't kill them ruthlessly. However, the spiritual beasts at the Foundation Establishment realm had spiritual nature that wasn't weak and could communicate with other living creatures. Therefore, to ensure his whereabouts were not revealed, he couldn't let them out carelessly and could only keep them in the leaving fire tripod. Anyway, just a nest of spiritual leopards. With the leaving fire tripod having fully restored to its peak power, it could entirely sustain their survival needs. Time passed again day by day during Lu Qing's cultivation. But unexpectedly, after half a month, before he officially entered the 5th transition, Little Li broke through first. Stepping out of the key step, Little Li officially entered the 2nd transition of the golden core realm. Then, after another half-month, the 5 elements also woke up. However, after digesting the strange bird's carcass, it was still somewhat inferior to Little Li, having only reached the perfect state of the 1st transition. To reach the 2nd transition, it still needed a period of nurturing and accumulation before attempting a breakthrough. Seeing both little ones successfully break through, Lu Qing relaxed and began cultivating with all his might. On this day, in the calm cave, Lu Qing suddenly sensed something. Without thinking, he took out a handful of middle-grade spirit stones from the Chenquan bag. With a flick of his hand, 36 middle-grade spirit stones fell around him, forming a simple spirit-gathering array. Then, as his mind urged, The array activated, and the surging spiritual charm poured out from the 36 middle-grade spirit stones, converging onto him. As Lu Qing's technique operated, it was like a true dragon absorbing water, constantly swallowing the extremely fierce spiritual charm into his body. Then, after purification and refinement through the 5 elements gourd, it transformed into his own incredibly pure mana. As vast amounts of spiritual charm were swallowed into Lu Qing's body, the aura on his body grew stronger and stronger. Finally, when the 36 middle-grade spirit stones spat out their last bit of spiritual charm and shattered, Lu Qing absorbed this huge spiritual charm into his body, and he trembled all over. An incomparably powerful aura, like an ancient beast awakening, emanated from him. Fortunately, he had already arranged a concealment array outside the cave beforehand. Otherwise, if his breakthrough aura spread out, it would probably cause a disturbance in the entire mountain range nearby. But with the array covering outside the cave, the aura was unable to transmit outside. Little Li and the 5 elements, however, were startled awake from their cultivation by Lu Qing's breakthrough commotion. Did Qing finally break through? Little Li sensed the terrifying aura emanating from Lu Qing and immediately understood what occurred, showing a look of delight in its eyes. 5 elements also wagged its tail repeatedly, very excited. The 2 little ones awaited with eager hearts for Lu Qing's breakthrough to complete. Soon, Lu Qing's aura quickly withdrew and soon returned to normal. He then opened his eyes, and his gaze was incredibly deep, as if it contained the endless starry sky, making one feel as though their very soul was being drawn in. However, this phenomenon merely flashed by, and Lu Qing restrained it. Qing, you broke through smoothly? Little Li moved close to Lu Qing, impatiently asking. Yes, I just broke through to the Golden Core 5th turn realm. Lu Qing nodded with a smile. Golden Core 5th turn. Little Li heard this and showed an envious look in its eyes. You humans cultivate so quickly. Our spiritual beast's cultivation speed is unbearably slow compared to yours. Your cultivation speed isn't slow either. Many spiritual beasts might struggle for decades or centuries, unable to break through a small realm. And you've already reached Golden Core 2nd turn so quickly. Even among all spiritual beasts, this counts as remarkably swift. Lu Qing reached out and ruffled Little Li's head, laughing. That's right. I'm a genius. The little guy, complimented, immediately raised its head proudly. Seeing this, Lu Qing laughed again. But he didn't refute the little one's words, because he knew Little Li wasn't wrong. It and the 5 elements truly stood out among spiritual beasts. After all, these 2 little ones condensed top-grade demon cores, especially Little Li, who even crossed all 9 tribulation thunders. The condensed top-grade demon core was flawless and perfect. Such talent is considered top-tier, even in the heavenly origin great world. The Golden Core Tribulation is derived from the various heavenly Taos under the rules of the Tao. Its power is driven by the cultivator's accumulation and sins. It's unrelated to the world's size. In other words, if a perfect foundation establishment cultivator who grew up in the heavenly origin great world went to another world, like Lu Qing's hometown, to cross the tribulation, his heavenly tribulation would still not change, and its power would remain the same. Under the heavenly tribulation, all beings are equal. No matter how powerful a foundation establishment realm cultivator is, they can't exceed the heavenly Tao of a world. Under the Tao's perception, your Golden Core Tribulation won't have less power just because you were in another world. If the Golden Core Tribulation were so easy to exploit, those foundation establishment cultivators in major worlds would have long thought of ways to cross the tribulation in various small worlds. Therefore, Golden Cores successfully condensed in small worlds do not necessarily lose in strength compared to those condensed in large worlds. This information was elucidated in the Taoist chapter regarding the Golden Core realm that Lu Qing acquired. Hence, he did not refute Little Li's words. Because the flawless top-grade demon core condensed by Little Li after crossing 9 thunders indeed stood among the best even in the heavenly origin great world. Of course, this is about the Golden Core Tribulation. Whether the primordial spirit tribulation is the same, Lu Qing isn't sure. After all, at that level, one begins to comprehend the various rules of the Tao. The specific mysterious changes are beyond what Lu Qing can understand now. Ah Qing, now that you've broken through, should we go out? At this point, Little Li asked again. Yes, having come to the heavenly origin great world, we can't always be in seclusion. It's time to go out and take a walk. Lu Qing, stroking Little Li's head, said with a smile. In a massive canyon, a team was slowly progressing. Everyone be careful. Once we pass through this valley, we'll be entering the Gale Plain. The Gale Plain is perpetually windy all year round. In the sky above, the celestial gale rages, making it difficult even for those in the Golden Core realm to fly, forcing them to travel on foot. In the Gale Plain, wind beasts and sand thieves frequently appear. If we encounter wind beasts or sand thieves, please stand together against the enemy and don't panic or run around. Otherwise, should any unexpected event occur, our transportation merchant will not provide additional rescue assistance. As they were about to exit the canyon, a burly Great Han mounted on a spirit horse with red scale armor, clad in armor, shouted loudly. After instructing them, he approached a carriage and politely said, "If any unexpected situations arise after entering the Gale Plain, according to our previous agreement, please lend a hand." Naturally, it's rare that Commander Wang allows us to follow along. We will certainly look out for each other. In the carriage, an elder with 2 children, a boy and a girl of 7 or 8 years old, smiled and said, "Thank you for your trouble, everyone." After receiving the elder's affirmative reply, the armored Great Han returned reassuringly to his original position. He agreed to let those people follow the merchant team mainly because of their cultivation. Even though they've traveled the Gale Plain many times, they couldn't guarantee absolute safety. Having a few more experts could provide extra security. This fellow is really crafty, trying to have us serve as guards without offering any rewards. After the armored Great Han left, a skinny youth in the carriage snorted coldly. "Since we are all traveling together, let's not fuss over it." The elder advised, "It's heard that the sand thieves in the Gale Plain have grown more rampant recently. If we travel alone, we might encounter considerable danger. Now that everyone is looking out for each other, we can be safer." "Humph, old Xiao, I've made it clear, you were the one who agreed to help, not me. If anything goes wrong, I won't waste my energy helping these weaklings. I'll leave on my own. I just refuse to believe that the Gale Plain is that terrifying," the skinny youth said coldly. The elder, addressed as old Xiao, opened his mouth but didn't know what to say for a moment. He glanced at the remaining people, noticing they seemed indifferent, and could only sigh. Clutching the 2 timid children beside him, he grew somewhat worried. For some reason, he had a feeling that something unsettling might soon occur. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but glance toward the corner of the carriage, where an ordinary-looking youth sat holding a gray raccoon. Although this youth appeared unremarkable, his cultivation was only at the low-grade Golden Core first-turn level. But somehow, he felt there was something unusual about him. The primary reason was probably a few days ago when their team was suddenly attacked by a Golden Core Middle Realm 5th-turn demon beast, causing quite a few casualties. Even the people in their carriage were deeply intimidated by the demon beast. However, inadvertently, the elder saw this youth with a face of panic but a tranquility deep in his eyes. Since then, he felt that this young man was somewhat extraordinary. However, the demon beast was resolved by the people from the transportation merchant, leaving them no chance to act. Moreover, in the days that followed, despite his secret observations, he couldn't find any clues. He was ultimately unable to determine whether the young man's panic at that time was genuine or feigned. Old Xiao is secretly watching again. Was it really during the Golden Core Realm Demon Beast's attack a few days ago that I exposed a flaw? In the corner of the carriage, Lu Qing, undergoing cultivation with closed eyes, felt a faint sense of being watched and felt a bit helpless. At this point, he was in a different appearance. Even his divine soul aura had changed dramatically. Now, even if Nangong Yuanwu and Emo Hongyun were standing right in front of him, they might not recognize his identity. But Lu Qing didn't expect that although he could hide his changes from someone in the primordial spirit realm, an elder at the Golden Core 3rd turn level saw through him. A few days ago, that sudden attack caught him off guard as he was meditating and comprehending cultivation. Although he cooperatively displayed panic when the Golden Core demon beast attacked, who would have thought that this astute old Xiao could still detect his peculiarity? My acting wasn't convincing enough. Lu Qing shook his head silently. As they say, age brings wisdom, and old Xiao is clearly an old hand. With just a slight slip, he immediately spotted the flaw. After sighing, Lu Qing ceased paying attention and continued his meditation. Even if old Xiao noticed something, as long as he didn't disturb him, it was fine. His concealment of cultivation and infiltration into this team was not just for travel and growth but also to obscure his identity, avoiding unnecessary complications. However, I didn't expect that after only 2 or 3 years in retreat, such significant events transpired outside. Lu Qing recalled some information he heard a few days ago from a town. Originally, he had intended to feel the bustling life of the town after his long retreat. He inadvertently overheard some discussions about the conflict between the Gongsu family and the Nangong family at a restaurant. Originally, ever since Gong Shuyu died at the hands of Nangong Yuanwu, the relationship between the Gongsu family and the Nangong family had become quite tense. However, because Nangong Yuanwu held the lives of 2 primordial spirit realm members of the Gongsu family in his hands, afraid of harming the hostages, the Gongsu family temporarily restrained their anger. They chose to negotiate with the Nangong family instead of directly starting a war. However, not long after, the situation changed due to a certain event. The cause was Gong Shuyu's mother, that lady of the Gongsu family's direct lineage, who couldn't bear the pain of losing her son. She spent a huge sum to place a bounty on Nangong Yuanwu's head in the Netherworld Palace. The Netherworld Palace is a very mysterious and strange, yet extremely powerful dark organization. It is said that this organization not only exists in the heavenly origin great world, but also in other great worlds. It is a widely distributed, terrifying force not limited to any particular great world, or even to a particular immortal domain. The Netherworld Palace never participates in the internal disputes of the great worlds. They hide in the darkness, only dealing in intelligence trade and assassination. Such a terrifying force naturally acts with no taboos. The cost of hiring the Netherworld Palace for assassination is extremely high, but once they act, few can resist their assassination attempts. Even primordial spirit great power might not be able to escape. In fact, as long as you can afford the price, even the sect masters of the top sects or clan leaders of the 36 upper clans, or even the various demon lords of the demon clan, they can assassinate without fail. However, the cost of assassinating such powerful figures is incredibly shocking. Even the noble families like the 36 upper clans, which control enormous wealth, may not be able to afford such a price. Though the price for assassinating a family head is unaffordable, Gong Shuyu's mother gritted her teeth and barely managed to afford the price for assassinating a primordial spirit realm at the first calamity stage. So, after she placed the bounty in the Netherworld Palace, within 3 days, Nangong Yuanwu was assassinated, barely escaping death. If it hadn't been for an old ancestor of the Nangong family being nearby at that time and intervening, he might have been annihilated, body and soul, and completely fallen. Even so, Nangong Yuanwu is now said to have suffered a primordial spirit collapse, becoming a cripple. Once the assassination occurred, the Nangong family was furious. Members of their family being targeted for assassination through a bounty in the Netherworld Palace was unacceptable. If they did not retaliate, others might think the Nangong family was weak and cowardly. So after the incident, the Nangong family immediately took the strongest response. Not only did they declare war on the Gongsu family, but they also beheaded the 2 primordial spirit realm members who had originally followed Gong Shuyu and sent their heads to the Gongsu family. As for the Gongsu family, they were in chaos due to this matter. Among the 36 upper clans, there has always been an unspoken agreement. No matter how intense competition may be, they must not place a bounty on the important members of each other's clans in the Netherworld Palace, because doing so could easily lead to an irretrievable situation. So, Gongshu Yu's mother's action directly turned their righteous position into an unrighteous one. Not only did they lose two primordial spirit great powers, but they also fell into a dire situation in terms of reputation. Yet, faced with the attack from the Nangong family, they had no choice but to engage in battle. Otherwise, it could dishearten the clan members and reduce cohesion, potentially threatening their status among the 36 upper clans in the future. Thus, the clash between the two noble families grew ever more intense. Finally, the Holy Alliance had no choice but to step in to mediate. It is said that the heads of both clans and many elder members are currently negotiating and disputing within the Holy Alliance. The outcome of these negotiations remains unknown for now. When Lu Qing heard these news while in that city, he was quite surprised. He did not expect that in the heavenly origin great world, there existed such a terrifying force like the Netherworld Palace hidden in the shadows. Their strength is formidable. Even the demon clan and the righteous cannot do anything against them. Similarly engaged in assassination, the likes of the Seven Killings Tower and the Wujin building from his homeland's world, compared to them, are simply like children playing house, completely negligible. However, this also gave Lu Qing a sense of crisis. This Netherworld Palace is too terrifying, a force crossing many great worlds, even immortal domains. Their deep foundations are beyond imagination. It is hard to guarantee that they don't have any scary secret techniques that can calculate his existence. So the first thing he did was leave that city. Afterward, he used the invisible and formless transformation method of his perfect golden core to completely change his appearance, aura, and even his divine soul fluctuation. Finally, he adopted several identities and traveled far away from the territory of the Nangong family. As for Nangong Yuanwu, although he sympathized with his predicament, he wouldn't expose his identity just because of temporary camaraderie and show up voluntarily. After all, he didn't know if that lunatic from the Gongsu family had also put a bounty on him alongside Nangong Yuanwu. If by any chance she did, showing up now would be like offering himself up as prey. Precisely because of these reasons, Lu Qing disguised himself as an ordinary loose cultivator golden core and mingled into a merchant caravan, traveling slowly. The caravan moved steadily and finally reached the end of the valley. Before they had officially exited, everyone could vaguely hear the violent wind ahead. It sounded like ghosts wailing and wolves howling, or like demon beasts roaring, sending chills down their spines. Is this the gale plane? Standing at the valley's exit, looking at the roaring gale and the sand swirling in the sky ahead, everyone felt a bit shaken. Even the Golden Core realm experts on the carriage showed changes in their expressions. In the face of such natural might, even with high cultivation, they had to be cautious. Lu Qing sensed the roaring gale ahead and was somewhat amazed. The heavenly origin great world is truly wondrous. Just the celestial gale blowing above the gale plane is incredibly powerful. Weaker Golden Core realms, if they were to enter recklessly, might not withstand it. Their bodies would crack, and they'd bleed into the sky. No wonder the Golden Core realm beings on the carriage did not choose to fly, but instead accompanied the caravan. It turns out that there is such a natural barrier ahead blocking the way. Everyone, please be patient. In at most an hour, this gale will weaken, and then we can enter the gale plane. At the front of the caravan, the armored man held a bagua-shaped magical treasure, seemingly calculating something. After a moment, he shouted to the people behind. Everyone naturally had no objection to this. Looking at the terrifying scene ahead, they did not dare to go in now and could only wait patiently. However, the armored man's prediction was quite accurate. After an hour, the gale ahead indeed slowly weakened. As an hour passed, the swirling sand in the sky gradually settled down. The plains, where you could barely see Tenjiang ahead, began to clear up significantly. All right, everyone can enter now. But remember, this gale is only temporarily paused. It won't take long before it kicks up again. You mustn't wander off, or once lost, it will be very difficult to rejoin the caravan. The armored man loudly advised. Upon hearing this, those small merchant teams at the back became tense. They quickly focused all their attention, reminding themselves not to fall behind. The caravan gradually entered the plain. Though called a plain, it was more like a desert. The ground was covered in thick yellow sand, sinking up to the ankles upon stepping. If not for the faintly visible vegetation around, it would truly resemble a desolate desert. Luckily, the wagons of the caravan were inscribed with arrays and wouldn't easily sink into the sand. The caravan, led by the armored man and others, slowly proceeded forward. As the caravan slowly ventured deeper into the gale plain, after 2 hours the wind began to gust around. "It's not good, it's a wind beast." Upon hearing the beast's roar from afar, the armored man's complexion slightly changed. "How come as soon as we entered gale plain, wind beasts appeared? Normally, don't they hide in the depths of the plain?" The middle-aged man beside the armored man also looked uneasy. The route they chose had been meticulously selected. According to the usual path, one could generally avoid most wind beast nests. But this time, how come wind beasts appeared so quickly nearby? The armored man and others felt a bit uneasy. The abnormal appearance of wind beasts made them feel that Gale Plain might have undergone some mysterious changes they were unaware of. But now, even if they wanted to turn back, it was too late. The caravan's speed was slow, and with the speed of wind beasts, catching up with them would be easy. As the surrounding gales continued to rage more intensely, and the dust and sand grew thicker, they could hardly see what was ahead. The armored man had no choice but to grit his teeth and summon a lamp-shaped magical treasure. In the next moment, powerful might surged from the magical treasure, and a light shield emanated out, enveloping the entire caravan. This light shield not only had strong defensive power but also could dispel the sand and dust, making the people who were almost toppled by the gales and the almost flying carriages suddenly stabilize. "Everyone, be aware. There might be a wind beast attack soon. Prepare your defenses individually. Also, make sure not to leave the range of the wind-stabilizing lamp's light. Otherwise, if you get lost, we won't risk rescuing you." Because the wind was so loud, the armored man shouted directly through divine soul transmission. "This great Han is quite responsible." Sitting in the corner of the carriage, Lu Qing's eyes showed unusual interest upon hearing the armored man's words. Although the trailing small caravans all paid protection fees to the transportation merchant. But given the current situation, it was evidently quite critical. The armored man was willing to deplete his mana to summon the magical treasure to protect everyone, which showed considerable responsibility. However, the current situation is clearly somewhat unfavorable. Lu Qing slightly sensed the surroundings and shook his head with concern. His cultivation was far greater than anyone here. He had long noticed what the situation ahead was. Has the young friend discovered anything wrong? At this moment, a voice sounded next to Lu Qing. Lu Qing slightly paused, thinking to himself what an old fox, truly unable to relax. Seeing that the other people in the carriage also looked over, Lu Qing showed an embarrassed look. "The old man jokes. I am just worried. The celestial gale of Gale Continent is truly formidable. I wonder if we can safely make it through." So the young friend is concerned about this. Old Joe smiled. "Young friend can rest assured. The transportation merchant often traverses Gale Plain, with rich experience. Otherwise, these small caravans wouldn't willingly pay large amounts of spirit stone to ask for their guidance." "Humph, coward." The thin young man suddenly sneered disdainfully. "Just a small Gale Valley. What's there to fear? If you're afraid, before we've fully ventured in, I advise you to quickly turn back. No need to worry, fellow traveler. I also followed the transportation merchant last time, traversing Gale Plain, and it was completely safe. Nothing happened." At this time, a woman in red clothing also laughed. "So that's how it is. Then I can be at ease," Lu Qing said, looking embarrassed. Since the transportation merchant can conduct business frequently on Gale Plain, they naturally have exceptional qualities. There's no need for everyone to worry. However, before the red-clothed woman could finish her words, her speech was cut off by a terrifying scream. The scream was extremely shrill, as if encountering something incredibly horrifying. Soon after, A flurry of chaotic cries came from outside. What happened? The people in the carriage were shocked and quickly jumped out. Just as they reached outside, they saw a shocking scene. In the rear caravan, a guard from one of the small caravans, with foundation building great success cultivation, was being clawed by some monster. The lower half of his body had vanished. Only the upper half remained in the monster's mouth, struggling and screaming desperately. The location of the guard was already outside the range of the light shield. The guard kept screaming, but no matter how he struggled, it was to no avail. His foundation establishment realm cultivation was utterly useless. In a blink, he was swallowed whole by the monster, and the scream abruptly ceased. At this moment, a long spear flew in, piercing into the monster's forehead. A monstrous scream was heard, and it transformed into a whirlwind of yellow sand and fled rapidly. Only the magical treasure long spear remained at that spot. It's a wind beast. Old Joe witnessed this scene. His expression became somewhat serious. He had sensed that something seemed off with this journey, and now it had indeed come true. As for the red-clothed woman, her face looked terrible. She had just said how safe it was following the transportation merchant, and in the next moment, someone miserably died in the mouth of a wind beast. This was clearly a slap in her face. So this is a wind beast? Lu Qing's heart stirred. Although that monster devoured living creatures just now, it was able to merge into a sand whirlwind and escape. And it seemed to blend with the surrounding gale, concealing its own aura. This was also why the Golden Core realm experts in the carriage did not sense its presence in advance. What is going on? Didn't I tell you not to leave the range covered by the magic lamp? The armored Great Han rode his scale armor steed and rushed from the front of the convoy. The long spear treasure on the ground suddenly flew up and landed in his hand. It turned out to be him who had just driven that monster away. No, it wasn't us who left the range covered by the magic lamp. It was that monster that suddenly rushed in and took Old Wu away. At this moment, a middle-aged man stammered while answering. How is that possible? The armored Great Han was somewhat disbelieving. To break through the protective light of my wind stabilizing lamp, one must at least be at the Golden Core first turn or above. We've just entered the Gale Plane not long ago. How can a Golden Core level wind beast appear so quickly? I'm telling you the truth. Just now everyone saw it with their own eyes. The middle-aged man continued. The armored Great Han saw the expressions on everyone's faces and immediately knew that the middle-aged man must be telling the truth. This made his heart sink once again. The events of today were far too unusual. Not only did the wind beast appear so quickly at the edge of the Gale Plane, but it was also at the Golden Core realm level. Usually, beasts of this level would stay in specific areas deep within the Gale Plane and rarely venture out. Could it be that there was a change within the Gale Plane? The more the armored Great Han thought about it, the more uneasy he became. After struggling for a moment, he finally gritted his teeth and shouted aloud through divine soul transmission. I fear the Gale Plane has undergone some mutation, and it is no longer suitable to proceed. Turn back. We'll immediately retreat to the valley. However, as soon as he said these words, there was an uproar in the small merchant convoy behind him. Turn back? What a joke. I promised the client to deliver the goods to his hands within 5 days. This batch of spiritual medicine must be delivered to Danshin sect within 7 days. That's right, we paid spirit stones. How can we say retreat and just retreat? If the trade is delayed, will you pay us the spirit stones we lose? You took our spirit stones and promised to lead us out of the Gale Plane. Didn't you say that transportation merchant values its reputation the most? You're going back on your word. The heads of each small merchant convoy were quite excited. Some of them were urgently trying to deliver their goods to their customers. Otherwise, they wouldn't risk crossing this Gale Plane. With their spirit stones paid, the armored Great Han now said to turn back. How could they be willing? Delaying delivery would mean, according to the contract, they'd have to pay fines. Of course, some merchant convoys with less urgent schedules did not protest. The terror of that monster just now scared them badly. The Gale Plane was so dangerous. If they could retreat, it would naturally be good. Everyone, shut up. Hearing these small merchant convoys dare to complain, the armored Great Han's gaze sharpened, and he shouted loudly. The shock of divine soul power made the heads of those noisy merchant convoys all turn pale. The weaker ones even vomited blood and were seriously injured. Understand your position. The armored Great Han faced the frightened gazes of the small merchant convoys, his face coldly stern. It is you who begged us, transportation merchant, to lead you on this route. I already said before we started, you must listen to me. Since none of you wish to retreat, then walk forward by yourselves. When you die in this gale plane, don't blame me for not warning you. These are the spirit stones you paid. Take them and scram. After speaking, the armored Great Han threw out 7 or 8 bags, which fell before the fiercest few earlier. He then turned toward the front of the convoy, intending for his men to retreat back to the valley. Sir, we meant no offense. Please give us another chance. Seeing the armored Great Han really leaving, one of the small merchant convoy heads became anxious and called out urgently. But before he could catch up, suddenly, the rotating and swirling sand around him swiftly gathered, forming a huge monster. Its claw reached out and directly broke through the lamp's defense. Grabbing that shouting merchant convoy head along with several people beside him, it dragged them away. This sudden shocking change startled everyone. I've been waiting for you. Seeing those few about to be taken by the monster, the armored Great Han, who was about to go far, suddenly turned and sacrificed his long spear treasure. In an instant, treasure light burst forth, and strong treasure power erupted. The monster's arm was pierced by the long spear treasure, causing half of its arm to explode and scatter countless sands. However, the monster seemed to have no sense of pain. Even with half its arm destroyed, it didn't let go of those few people it grabbed. Eventually, amidst screams, it dragged them into the endless sands, quickly retreating. Damn it! Seeing he couldn't save those few even with a powerful strike, the armored Great Han's expression turned ugly. Wind beasts are just that troublesome, though their attack strength is weaker compared to other beasts of the same realm. But they possess an unusual ability to transform into winds and sands, and are extremely hard to kill. This is why he doesn't want to get entangled with these wind beasts, preferring to return to the valley. If it's only a Foundation Establishment Realm wind beast, he can still manage to kill it. But with Golden Core Realm wind beasts, the challenge greatly intensifies. Even with his Golden Core 5th turn strength, it is challenging to kill a wind beast of 2nd or 3rd transition strength quickly. You witnessed it. Now the Gale Plane has undergone a major change. Even at this edge area, Golden Core Realm wind beasts appear. If you do not fear death, keep moving forward. Forgive us for not accompanying you. The armored Great Han said no more and ignored the bloodless faces of the crowd, turning forward. This time he really left. Soon, transportation merchants' convoy began to turn around, heading back in the direction they came from. This time, those previously clamoring small merchant convoys dared not speak. All followed closely behind transportation merchant, fearing they'd really be abandoned. After witnessing the fate of those few earlier, they realized their mistake. Business, no matter how important, is never more important than one's own life. Without transportation merchants' protection, in this Gale Plane, they wouldn't survive for even a moment. So, what do you all think? Retreat to the valley together? Mr. Chow, holding 2 children, asked Lu Qing and the others. Humph, just a few insignificant wind beasts. What's there to be afraid of? I have no time to waste with these useless people. Since you're afraid to move forward, I'll just go alone. Before others could respond, the skinny youth snorted coldly. He then performed his movement technique, breaking through the light of the wind-stabilizing lamp, rushing into the endless sands. As he rushed out, the sand gathered again, and a monster appeared once more. A giant claw reached for the skinny youth. Get lost! Yet the skinny youth coldly shouted and released a flying sword. Under the flashing sword light, the wind beast was directly shattered into pieces and collapsed. After destroying the wind beast, the skinny youth didn't look back and disappeared into the endless sand, never to be seen again. This person is actually a sword cultivator. No wonder he's so arrogant. The red-clothed woman was immediately surprised upon witnessing this scene. Sword cultivators are always renowned for their offensive power. A powerful sword cultivator often releases unimaginable strength, fighting beyond their level frequently. No wonder the skinny youth had acted so arrogantly all this time. It turns out he is an exceptional sword cultivator. Miss Hong Yen, what about you? Mr. Chow asked again. I also have some matters and need to rush off. I can't delay here any longer. Mr. Chow, farewell. The red-clothed woman smiled gently, then transformed into a red cloud, disappearing into the sand. Mr. Chow understood she must also have unique abilities. He had no choice but to look at the remaining Lu Qing and the other silent middle-aged man. Fellow Taoists, are you leaving too? In response to Mr. Chow's inquiry, Lu Qing had yet to speak. Nevertheless, the always taciturn middle-aged man suddenly said, My cultivation is shallow, and I don't have the ability to cross this gale plain alone. It's better for me to return with everyone together. Lu Qing also murmured, I'm the same. That monster earlier was clearly a golden core level demon beast. I am not its match. Since that's the case, let's return together so we can look out for each other. Hearing this, Mr. Chow showed a faint smile on his face. If he were alone, he wouldn't fear this gale plane. But now, bringing along 2 children, he had more apprehensions. It's unwise to rashly cross this gale plane. The middle-aged man and Lu Qing decided to return together, at least increasing their numbers with 2 golden core realm cultivators looking out for each other. On the other side, the armored Great Han saw the thin young man and the red-clothed woman suddenly leave, feeling dissatisfied but helpless. After all, these golden core realm individuals weren't in a contractual relationship with their transportation merchant. If they chose to leave, he had no way to stop them. Luckily, Mr. Chow and Lu Qing, along with their group, eventually chose to return together. Otherwise, he really had no confidence in safely escorting them back to the valley. After seeing that golden core level wind beast earlier, the armored Great Han already knew. Some significant event must have occurred inside the gale plane. Otherwise, a golden core level wind beast couldn't possibly appear at this edge area. Moreover, he had always felt that amidst the endless wind and sand, something seemed to be lurking, spying on this caravan. So even choosing to return now, his heart remained uneasy. He had a premonition that this return journey wouldn't be smooth. Just as the armored Great Han contemplated, suddenly, an instinctive shiver ran through him, and he abruptly raised his head. Then he saw 3 monstrous wind beasts forming ahead, charging towards them ferociously. This unexpected change made everyone cry out in alarm, especially since these 3 wind beasts were all golden core level, each towering over 10 zhang high. With all 3 attacking at once, the nearly tangible fierce evil qi rushed toward them. Those with slightly weaker cultivation were immediately overwhelmed, their divine souls chilled, bodies frozen, almost unable to move. Mere wind beasts dare to be impudent. Form a formation. The armored Great Han's gaze turned cold, and the long spear treasure in his hand transformed into a roaring furious dragon, charging at one of the wind beasts. At the same time, a companion beside him, also at the golden core realm, wielded a treasure saber, slashing out a massive golden sword chi towards another wind beast. The remaining transportation merchant guards formed a mysterious battle formation, jointly summoning a massive mana bear to attack the last wind beast. Boom! 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 The combined power of the furious dragon and sword chi was extraordinary, immediately dispersing 2 of the wind beasts. The last wind beast also fell under the mana bear conjured by the guarding formation. It only lasted a few moments before exploding into a storm of sand. In an instant, the once fierce wind beasts, reminiscent of ancient fierce beasts, were scattered like that. But before the crowd could rejoice, the next moment, they saw the sand gathering again. The previously dispersed 3 wind beasts reformed and charged at them once more. No matter how many times you are reborn, I will kill you all the same. The armored Great Han, seemingly expecting this, coldly prepared, his hand performing a spell as the long spear treasure transformed into a furious dragon, once again smashing a wind beast apart. The companion wielding a saber, along with the guards, also wielded their spells and divine skills against the remaining 2 wind beasts. However, at this time, 2 more roars sounded from behind. 2 equally massive wind beasts appeared at the back of the caravan, charging forward. How can there be so many golden core level wind beasts here? The armored Great Han's face turned grim upon witnessing this. He already found it odd for golden core level wind beasts to appear at this edge area. Now, with 5 appearing at once, a dreadful thought emerged in his mind. Could it be that something is controlling these wind beasts? If not, why would typically low-intelligence wind beasts cooperate so effectively to attack them? And their actions were coordinated, knowing how to attack from both front and rear. But how could this be possible? Though wind beasts were of low intelligence, their nature was extremely fierce. What kind of existence could suppress their ferocity and make them submit? Various thoughts flashed through the armored Great Han's mind. But seeing the 2 wind beasts nearing the caravan, he couldn't afford to dwell on them. He had to shout, "Mr. Chow, the back is up to you." Though the rear of the caravan was covered by the wind-stabilizing lamp's light, it couldn't withstand attacks from 2 formidable golden core level wind beasts. With his hands full, the armored Great Han could only seek help from Lu Qing and the others. Fellow cultivators, it seems we must also contribute. Mr. Chow, hearing the armored Great Han's shout, did not hesitate. He immediately summoned an iron ruler treasure, which enlarged rapidly, emitting treasure light, and struck at one of the wind beasts. Lu Qing and the taciturn middle-aged man didn't delay, also summoning their treasures to confront the other wind beast. The middle-aged man's treasure was a black iron rod, which, once summoned, resembled a raging black flood dragon, continually striking at the wind beast. Lu Qing wielded a flying sword. Under the transformative light of the sword, its might was remarkable, slicing through layers of sword light, shattering the wind beast's arm along with half its body. This young friend's sword control technique is quite extraordinary. Could it be that he is also a sword cultivator? Mr. Chow, with profound cultivation, was able to handle a wind beast alone, yet still observed Lu Qing and the middle-aged man. Seeing Lu Qing wield the flying sword and destroy half of the wind beast's body in one strike, he was slightly surprised, because Lu Qing's cultivation was only at the first transition low-grade golden core, and the wind beasts had at least the strength of the second or third transition. Lu Qing was able to destroy half the body of one of them with a single strike. This level of attack power is rare among cultivators, except for sword cultivators. The middle-aged man, upon witnessing this, was also taken aback. He didn't expect Lu Qing, who seemed so ordinary and had the lowest cultivation among them, to strike with such ferocity when he finally acted. However, the middle-aged man quickly reacted. Seeing the wind beast reveal a flaw, his gaze focused immediately. The black flood dragon formed from the black iron stick suddenly increased in power, smashing the other half of the wind beast's body. "Ha! Good. Very good." At the front of the caravan, the armored Great Han, sensing this scene, immediately felt invigorated. Initially, he was worried that Mr. Chow and the others wouldn't be able to hold off the 2 wind beasts behind. If that happened, they would be attacked from both sides and most of them would fall here. Now that Mr. Chow and the others could hold off, they still had hope. He immediately ordered, "Move out. Head towards the valley. Everyone, follow closely. Do not fall behind, or your life will be at your own risk." Then he shouted, "Mr. Chow, support from the rear. The wind beasts cannot leave the gale plain. As long as we reach the valley, we will be safe." After speaking, the armored Great Han activated the wind-stabilizing lamp hanging in front of the caravan, parting the gale ahead and moving forward slowly. The small caravan behind, seeing this, hurried to follow, fearing that falling behind would result in being swallowed by the endless wind and sand. crushed to pieces by the terrifying wind beast. The entire caravan moved forward again, edging closer to the valley. During this process, the 5 wind beasts persistently attacked the caravan. No matter how many times they were shattered, they would reform with undiminished power, rushing at the caravan again. Their immortal and strange appearance made everyone tremble with fear. Fortunately, only 5 wind beasts gathered out of the endless wind and sand. If one more came, they feared they would all be buried here. Boom! After once again shattering a wind beast, Lu Qing frowned as he saw it reform in just a few seconds. Mr. Chow, this is not a viable plan. These wind beasts can't be killed. They keep attacking like this. I'm afraid we'll exhaust our mana before reaching the valley and won't be able to hold on. You have seen so much. Don't you know how to completely annihilate these wind beasts? Wind beasts can't be killed. However, Mr. Chow shook his head, using his iron ruler treasure to shatter the head of a wind beast. The power of the wind beasts comes from this gale plane, nurtured in the netherworld wind cave deep within the gale plane. Even if we completely destroy them, they will soon be reborn from the netherworld wind cave. This is why the gale plane has always existed. If wind beasts could be slain, sect forces would have already flattened this gale plane. They can't be killed, but they can be shattered, letting them reincarnate in the netherworld wind cave? Lu Qing sharply caught Mr. Chow's words. Then how can we completely shatter these wind beasts? This is also extremely difficult. Mr. Chow sighed. It is said that within the wind beast is a wind pearl, which is their core. But this wind pearl is condensed from the law of wind, able to gather and disperse form. Once the wind beast is dispersed, their wind pearl will also scatter with the body. Only in the instant when the wind beast's body disperses, and the wind pearl hasn't completely scattered. Focusing power to annihilate the wind pearl might completely shatter the wind beast. After losing the wind pearl, the true spirit of the wind beast can only return to the netherworld wind cave. Upon reforming the wind pearl, they are reborn again. But now, even shattering these wind beasts' bodies isn't easy. Trying to seize that fleeting moment and destroy the wind pearl formed by the law of wind is even more challenging. Probably only a late-stage golden core practitioner with a top-grade golden core might have a chance. The middle-aged man next to him secretly shook his head upon hearing this. A late-stage golden core cultivator with a top-grade golden core is a figure they all aspire to emulate. Something that requires such a figure to accomplish is absolutely beyond their capabilities. However, after listening to Mr. Chow, Lu Qing seemed contemplative. Mr. Chow had always been observing Lu Qing's expression. After all, he always felt this young cultivator was enigmatic and unpredictable. Seeing his demeanor, Mr. Chow's heart stirred, and he couldn't help but ask, "Friend, do you possibly have a plan?" "I do have an idea." Not keeping secrets, Lu Qing shattered the reforming wind beast once more and directly said, "I have a sword technique that can unleash considerable power. When I'm ready, Mr. Chow, you should exert all your strength to explode a wind beast. I'll attempt to seize that moment and temporarily slay a wind beast." "Young friend, can you really do this?" Mr. Chow was shocked and quickly asked. The middle-aged man beside also looked at Lu Qing with a surprised expression. "We have to take a gamble. Otherwise, at our current speed, we may not reach the valley before our mana is exhausted." Mr. Chow fell into silence. He also understood that Lu Qing spoke the truth. They had entered the gale plane when the gale was paused. The traveling speed then was far superior to now. So returning to the valley now would take significantly more time. Given the persistent harassment of these wind beasts, their mana likely wouldn't last that long. "All right." Understanding this point, Mr. Chow gritted his teeth and nodded immediately. "Since you're so confident, old man here will work with you this once." "Mr. Sure. I need to gather sword intent, so you must hold off this wind beast for now," Lu Qing said to the middle-aged man. "Don't worry, while I may not be a match for this wind beast, I can certainly hold it at bay." The middle-aged man laughed, his face no longer showing the silent, gloomy demeanor. Seeing this, Lu Qing wasted no time, swiftly flying to sit atop a wagon. He retracted his flying sword, letting it hover before him, and began to condense his sword intent. Meanwhile, Mr. Chow and the middle-aged man continued to fend off the two wind beasts. Especially the middle-aged man, whose black stick treasure transformed into a black flood dragon, shifted tactics from violent attacks to defense. The black flood dragon spun, trapping the wind beast and preventing it from nearing the caravan. However, while the two were fully engaged in resisting the wind beasts, they still spared some attention to observe Lu Qing's movements. Then they saw, as Lu Qing gathered his power, the flying sword hovering before him began to emit a faint sword glow, alternately flickering. And the sword intent emanating from the sword made everyone around feel a piercing chill, as an icy fear surged into their hearts. This sword intent. Mr. Chow and the middle-aged man felt the sword intent emanating from the flying sword, and their eyes widened dramatically. Lu Qing's condensed sword intent even caused them to feel, and the sword intent emanating from the sword made everyone around feel a piercing chill. An icy fear surged into their hearts. This sword intent. Mr. Chow and the middle-aged man felt the sword intent emanating from the flying sword, and their eyes widened dramatically. Lu Qing's condensed sword intent even caused them. What happened afterward? As Lu Qing's flying sword shot out, located at the front of the convoy, the armored Great Han and others who were struggling to fend off the wind beast sensed it and turned around suddenly. There was no choice. The sword intent unleashed by Lu Qing was too astonishing. They all had to divert their heart and spirit to check what was happening. Then, everyone witnessed an unbelievable scene. They saw an incredibly dazzling sword light, at a speed unimaginable to them, piercing toward the heart position of a wind beast. And just as the sword light touched the wind beast, almost simultaneously, the wind beast suddenly exploded. Cultivation as high as the armored Great Han and others sensed that at the heart of the wind beast, a shimmering dot was also about to disintegrate along with the wind beast. However, just as the dot was about to disintegrate, the sword light driven by Lu Qing arrived just in time, striking that dot. Subsequently, an incredibly powerful force erupted, and before the dot had time to disintegrate, it was completely annihilated by the sword intent contained within the sword light. With the dot destroyed, the wind beast, whose body had already disintegrated more than half, suddenly stiffened. The sand composing its body did not, as before, fly around wildly and merge into the endless sandstorm. Instead, it scattered dramatically, falling to the ground, blown by the gale in all directions, completely losing its previous agility. The wind beast's wind pearl was destroyed? This change did not escape the notice of the armored Great Han. His eyes suddenly widened, exclaiming in surprise, his eyes revealing disbelief. To scatter the wind beast while simultaneously completely destroying the wind pearl, even he could not achieve it. It should be noted that the wind beast's life core, the wind pearl, is condensed by the law of wind. Not only can it gather and disperse invisibly, but it's also extremely difficult to annihilate and destroy. Even powerful cultivators in the late-stage golden core would find such a task very arduous. And that seemingly ordinary young man with only a low-grade golden core cultivation actually had such capability? Did he succeed? Mr. Chow and the middle-aged man, upon seeing the wind beast pierced and dissipated by Lu Qing's flying sword but not recondensed, all revealed ecstatic expressions. Just one more left. Lu Qing moved his spell, and the flying sword transformed into a stream of light, returning to the front of him. Mr. Chow, I can barely muster one more strike. Prepare yourselves to see if you can deal with this last wind beast, still capable of one more strike. Mr. Chow and the middle-aged man, hearing this, were both surprised and delighted. Surprised that such a terrifying strike, Lu Qing could actually unleash once more. Delighted because if they could deal with this remaining wind beast, their pressure would truly be significantly reduced. Revitalized, Mr. Chow and the middle-aged man began to jointly suppress the remaining wind beast. Originally, Mr. Chow alone could handle a wind beast. Now adding the middle-aged man, they completely suppressed the remaining wind beast. After a few dozen breaths, Lu Qing's voice rang out again. Mr. Chao, it's ready. Mr. Chao had long been prepared, hearing Lu Qing's words, without hesitation, once again unleashed his power to explode the head of the wind beast being suppressed. Almost simultaneously, Lu Qing's sword light arrived. However, this time, his flying sword aimed not at the wind beast's heart position but its head. The sword light dazzling, a white dot appeared from its head position at the moment of the wind beast's explosion. Before it could disperse, it was struck by Lu Qing's flying sword. Under the erupting powerful sword intent, the dot was instantly shattered. In an instant, the wind beast let out a roar, its body shaking. The yellow sand forming its massive body began to drop like a waterfall. The remaining wind beast was also temporarily slain by Lu Qing. Did it succeed? Old Man Wang and the middle-aged man were stunned in their hearts. However, they didn't dare to be negligent, still vigilantly watching ahead. Until after some time, seeing the two wind beasts did not recondense. They finally confirmed that the wind pearls of the two wind beasts had truly been annihilated by Lu Qing. Immediately, their gaze towards Lu Qing became extremely admiring. Comrade, you really did it. You took care of this wind beast. Also, thanks to both of you joining forces, otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to accurately find the position of the wind pearl to destroy it. Lu Qing's complexion was somewhat pale, his aura considerably lower. He said with a slight smile. You shouldn't say it like that. The wind pearl of a wind beast is unpredictable, never fixed in one position. Comrade, for you to sense the position of the wind pearl at the moment of its explosion is truly remarkable. Mr. Chao was extremely impressed. The senior mistakenly praised me. Yet Mr. Chao firmly believed he was not mistaken in his praise. He understood quite a bit about wind beasts. Why are wind beasts so troublesome? Isn't it precisely because as long as the wind pearl isn't destroyed, no matter how many times the body is scattered, they can reassemble indestructible and immortal? And to destroy the wind pearl of a wind beast is exceedingly difficult. Not only because the wind pearl gathers and disperses invisibly, dissipating with the dispersal of the wind beast's body, merging into the gale. Itself is also condensed from the power of laws of the wind. Ordinary attacks, even if they hit its position, can barely cause any harm. Moreover, when the wind pearl is inside the wind beast, it never remains fixed in one position. Instead, it continually shifts position with the sand flowing in the wind beast's body, able to appear anywhere within the wind beast. In other words, if you want to utterly defeat the wind beast, not only do you need to accurately find the location of the wind pearl at the moment the wind beast's body collapses, but you also need to have sufficiently powerful strength to destroy the wind pearl. This is why Mr. Chao previously said, only the absolute strong practitioners at late-stage Golden Core with top-grade Golden Core can possibly completely defeat these few wind beasts. And now Lu Qing, who is only at a Golden Core realm, surprisingly seized the moment of the wind pearl's appearance and obliterated it. Though it was with the assistance of two others, Mr. Chao still found it incredibly surprising. Indeed, my previous feeling was correct. This young friend is really not an ordinary Golden Core level. Mr. Chao thought to himself. An ordinary Golden Core level would not possibly possess such keen spiritual sense and extraordinary sword control technique. This seemingly ordinary young man surely has an extraordinary background. Perhaps he is someone who has come out to train from a major sect or a great family. Mr. Chao, did you manage to take care of the two wind beasts at the back? As Mr. Chao was marveling inwardly, a transmission from the armored Great Han came from the front of the convoy. Indeed, the wind pearls of the two wind beasts at the back have both already been destroyed by this young friend, and temporarily they cannot condense their bodies again. Mr. Chao replied, Great! Upon hearing Mr. Chao's affirmative response, the armored Great Han rejoiced greatly. Though he did not know how exactly Mr. Chao and the others cooperatively killed the two wind beasts. But this news was undoubtedly extremely good news for them at the moment. He promptly said, Then may I request that friend to help us slay the three winged beasts at the front as well? Mr. Chow looked at Lu Qing, who was sitting cross-legged on the top of the caravan with a pale face, maintaining a regulating breath with closed eyes. He shook his head. I'm afraid not for now. This young friend has repeatedly unleashed powerful moves, consuming a lot of energy. For now it's difficult for him to deploy the flying sword again. Is that so? The armored Great Han heard this and felt a slight disappointment. However, this was also within his expectations. After all, Lu Qing's cultivation wasn't particularly high, merely at golden core level. Being able to display such powerful sword light was already quite astonishing. In his opinion, it was very likely that Lu Qing had used some kind of forbidden technique that harms the body. And so, his inability to fire that strong sword light again was to be expected. Seeing that it was unfeasible, the armored Great Han turned instead, saying, Then please let that friend rest and recover well. I have here a healing pills, 100 yuan rejuvenation pill. You may let the young friend take them. It should allow him to recover more quickly. Then Mr. Chow saw a jade bottle wrapped in a cluster of mana flying toward him. 100 yuan rejuvenation pill? Mr. Chow caught the elixir, showing a trace of surprise on his face. This is a golden core level top-grade healing pills, fetching a price of at least thousands of lower-grade spirit stones on the market, often being unavailable even if you have the money. The armored Great Han had brought out such a spirit pill which showed he was really willing to pay anything. Mr. Chow opened the jade bottle, and inside, a wisp of medicinal fragrance wafted out. Just by scenting it, he felt that the mana that was mostly depleted within him had slightly recovered. He instantly realized that this elixir was genuine. He poured out the elixir, wrapping it in mana so as not to let its medicinal power disperse. He spoke to Lu Qing. Young friend, the commander has sent healing pills. Would you like to take them? Lu Qing opened his eyes, his gaze falling on the elixir in Mr. Chow's hand. This elixir is named 100 yuan rejuvenation pill, a golden core top-grade healing pills, known for bringing the dead back to life, for flesh to grow back on bones, quickly restoring mana and body. Young friend, after taking it, you should be able to quickly replenish the loss and recover your body. Mr. Chow explained quickly. Listening to this, Lu Qing nodded slightly. Then he opened his mouth and absorbed the elixir from Mr. Chow's hand, swallowing it in one gulp. He naturally understood the intention of the armored Great Han sending these elixirs. It was merely hoping that he could recover quickly and assist them in taking care of the remaining three wind beasts. In actuality, with his cultivation, the divine soul transmission from the armored Great Han earlier did not elude his perception. The hesitance earlier was but him using his superpower to inspect if there were any issues with the elixir. Seeing it was safe, he confidently swallowed it, as the armored Great Han's plan coincided perfectly with his wishes. He was indeed fretting about what excuse to use to recover quickly. The earlier performance had already been exceptional enough. Thus, he had to exercise restraint and act weakly so that people wouldn't suspect too much. Now, with the 100 yuan rejuvenation pill, he could pretend to recover quickly. Because Lu Qing knew, the five wind beasts besieging them weren't really a threat. The truly dangerous things had always been hidden nearby, watching them. Seeing that Lu Qing's aura began to recover shortly after he swallowed the elixir, Mr. Chow and the others were relieved. They did not continue to idle, immediately summoning their magical treasures and flying to the front of the convoy to assist the armored Great Han and others in resisting the remaining three wind beasts. With the involvement and assistance of the two Golden Core realm, the pressure on the armored Great Han and the others was greatly reduced, driving the three wind beasts at the front into continuous retreats. Often, their bodies hadn't fully formed before being crushed by them, significantly increasing their marching speed too. Unfortunately, the armored Great Han and others tried to replicate Lu Qing's earlier approach, finding the wind pearl at the moment the wind beast's body shattered and destroying it. However, after several attempts, they found it simply impossible to achieve. Not to mention the wind pearl floats unpredictably within the wind beast's body, constantly changing position, never stopping for even a brief moment. preventing them from accurately capturing the wind pearl's location the moment the wind beast shattered. Even if they fortunately caught the moment the wind pearl disappeared once or twice, they found that their attacks simply couldn't focus strength at one point to crush the wind pearl formed by the law of wind. After several consecutive failed attempts, everyone finally understood how difficult it was to destroy the wind pearl. While being shocked by Lu Qing's prowess, they increasingly realized, only when that mysterious youth recovers can they have hope of completely defeating the remaining 3 wind beasts. Fortunately, with Mr. Chow and the middle-aged man's joining, the situation started to lean toward the convoy's side. Although the armored Great Han and the others couldn't fully defeat the 3 wind beasts, the wind beasts couldn't stop them from progressing further. As time went on, the convoy gradually approached the position of the valley. In at most half an hour, they could enter the valley and escape this deadlock. Hope was ahead. Although the armored Great Han and others had grown weary, their eyes became much brighter. What encouraged them even more was that Lu Qing's voice came from the back. "Seniors, my injuries have recovered. Okay. Then please, friend, assist us in slaughtering these 3 wind beasts. My transportation merchant will certainly offer generous reward." The armored Great Han immediately shouted. "Yes, seniors," Lu Qing replied, feeling a bit helpless in his heart. Actually, he didn't intend to recover so quickly, thinking to just delay and wait until everyone had retreated into the valley, which wasn't a bad plan. But perhaps seeing that they were about to escape, the presence that had been lurking nearby, watching seemed to become impatient, causing Lu Qing to no choice but to tactfully awaken. Lu Qing sat cross-legged atop the caravan, summoned his flying sword, outwardly condensing sword intent and preparing for a charged strike. But inwardly, his heart and spirit were quietly sensing the movements of the presence hidden in the shadows. Here it comes. Lu Qing's heart and spirit suddenly stirred. "Friend, are you ready?" On the other side, the armored Great Han, seeing Lu Qing inactive for a long time, couldn't help but call out. Then, in the next moment, he found himself unable to refrain from opening his mouth wide. In front of them, endless wind sands suddenly gathered, forming a gigantic tornado that pierced into the sky. When the tornado vanished, a terrifying monster, at least 100 yards tall and formed entirely of yellow sand, appeared before them. Feeling the boundless sovereignty emanating from the terrifying giant beast, and those 3 wind beasts, no longer attacking them but instead kneeling in worship at the feet of the giant beast, bowing in reverence. Everyone opened their mouths wide, revealing immense panic in their eyes. Even the armored Great Han, with the highest cultivation among them, was filled with fear. His eyes filled with disbelief, his mouth stuttering. Primordial spirit realm wind beast? A primordial spirit realm wind beast was actually born in the Gale Plain? But how is this possible? The armored Great Han gazed at the massive monstrous creature, towering over 100 zhang high, his face showing disbelief. The imposing aura emitted by this gigantic wind beast far surpassed the Golden Core realm level. Before it, they were as insignificant as ants. Evidently, this giant wind beast is not of the same level as the 3 wind beasts beneath it, not to mention the submissive posture those 3 wind beasts showed towards it. Everything points to one fact, that this terrifying wind beast, over 100 zhang tall, is a being of another level. The legendary primordial spirit realm wind beast. Realizing this, a sense of utter despair arose in everyone's hearts. The gap between the Golden Core realm and the primordial spirit realm was simply too vast, especially since this was the home ground, the Gale Plain of the wind beasts. They had no hope left of leaving here alive. How could the Gale Plain give rise to a primordial spirit realm wind beast? Old Zhou also showed despair. Never had he heard of wind beasts of the primordial spirit realm appearing in the Gale Plain. Otherwise, even given 10 times the courage, they wouldn't dare enter here. No wonder wind beasts of the Golden Core level that usually only appear in the depths of the plain broke convention and appeared at this fringe zone. And the usually unintelligent creatures even joining forces, defying logic. Turns out it was the Gale Plain that birthed their true king, a primordial spirit realm wind beast. Old Joe felt more despair the more he thought about it, with immense regret. He had felt unease even before entering the Gale Plane. He should have turned back then. Though detouring would consume over 10 more days, it would be far better than facing imminent death now. But now regret was useless. A primordial spirit realm wind beast, furthermore within the Gale Plane, along with 3 Golden Core realm wind beasts. They had no way out. Any resistance against such beings was destined to fail. Old Joe held his 2 grandsons, his expression tragic. Having lived so long, death was not so daunting. His only regret was the 2 children who, due to his misjudgment, would be buried with him in this endless windswept sand. A primordial spirit realm wind beast. No wonder I felt such a strong sense of crisis all along. Behind the crowd, Lu Qing looked at that mountain-like wind beast, feeling enlightened. In his field of vision, several lines of information were emerging. Primordial spirit realm wind beast. A powerful creature born from the netherworld wind cave deep in Gale Plane. Cultivation. Newly entered primordial spirit realm. The power source of the wind beast comes from the wind pearl formed from the law of wind within, its sand-condensed form merely an exterior appearance. Only by shattering the wind pearl can the wind beast truly be defeated. This wind beast just recently formed, its spiritual wisdom akin to that of a child. Though the wind beast was born from Gale Plane, it is also constrained by this plane, unable to leave. Seeing the information floating on the giant wind beast, Lu Qing felt somewhat relieved. Soon, a hint of battle will appear in his eyes. Only newly entered the primordial spirit realm. Just as well, I've always wanted to know the gap between my current strength and the primordial spirit realm. Let me test you today. Since stepping into the Golden Core 5th turn realm, Lu Qing's strength has skyrocketed again. Golden Core 9 revolutions, each turn reaching higher heavens. With each breakthrough in the Golden Core realm, one's strength undergoes a remarkable transformation. Lu Qing's perfect Golden Core is even more so. With each turn, his power undergoes near-qualitative transformation. Now, if Gongshu Yu were to be reborn and appear before him, even with treasure armor, his punch would be hard to withstand. That's why Lu Qing wished to know how much he differed from primordial spirit great power with his current strength. Yet he couldn't really seek a battle with a primordial spirit great power, that would be too risky. But now there's an excellent opportunity. Seemingly sensing Lu Qing's battle will, the primordial spirit realm wind beast ahead moved its eye and slowly lowered its head. Just that movement made the already fierce gale grow even wilder. Is it finally going to strike? The giant wind beast moved, causing everyone to tremble. Many had already closed their eyes in despair, awaiting the arrival of death. None even attempted to struggle. Those brave enough to venture out for commerce in these times were mentally prepared for death. Moreover, everyone knew that against such beings as the primordial spirit realm, any struggle was futile. Better to greet death straightforwardly and suffer less. Even those Golden Core realm experts like the armored Great Han and Old Joe thought so. Their strength was vastly outmatched by the primordial spirit realm wind beast. In the face of such absolute power discrepancy, any struggle was utterly futile. Better to sit quietly and accept their fate. With this mindset, as Old Joe and others saw the giant wind beast raise its claw, crashing down with the force of a collapsing pillar of heaven, they felt a sense of relief. The giant wind beast's claw, emitting an indescribable oppressive aura, bore down. The light of the wind stabilizing lamp under this terrifying aura flickered like a candle in the wind, on the verge of extinguishing. However, just when everyone was waiting for death to descend, a sword light flew out from behind them. The sword light was dazzling like a meteor from the sky, revealing a supreme sword intent that seemed to split the heavens. Then, everyone witnessed the powerful wind beast claw, like the grasp of death, hovering above them. It was split in two by the sword light and then exploded with a roar. The strong energy erupted, flowing backward, even blasting open half of the gigantic wind beast's body. Countless yellow sands, like a torrential downpour, fell from above but were blocked by the light created by the wind-stabilizing lamp, falling to the sides. Everyone stared dumbfounded at this scene, their minds blank. For a moment, they didn't know what had happened. Mr. Chow, surely you haven't given up like this. This isn't like your usual shrewd behavior. Among the dazed eyes, the sword light that exploded the gigantic wind beast's arm turned in the air, revealing the flying sword inside it, flying backward. Next, a figure slowly walked out from behind them, holding the flying sword, standing at the forefront. Why you? Is it you? Mr. Chow stuttered, seeing the figure. Others were even more incredulous, staring at Lu Qing. No one expected that the powerful sword light was actually struck by him. Yes, it was me, Lu Qing said calmly. Friend, no elder. You are actually a primordial spirit realm great power. The armored Great Han then woke up from the dream, shouting with immense joy. Primordial spirit great power. Lu Qing chuckled, not directly answering. However, the armored Great Han and the others already believed this was the truth. Because besides a peer level stronger, who else could slash and explode the gigantic wind beast's arm with one sword? Especially here at the Gale Plane, the home ground of wind beasts. They could receive mysterious blessings here, unleashing power beyond themselves. Hence, Lu Qing must be a primordial spirit realm level great power to have such divine skills. Elder, please save us. Whatever request you have afterward, we will fulfill it even at the cost of our lives. Realizing this, the armored Great Han immediately knelt on one knee, pleading to Lu Qing. As for why such a strong person like Lu Qing was hiding in their team, the armored Great Han had no time to think. He only knew that Lu Qing was their sole lifeline. The lives of all of them were in his hands. Others had long knelt on the ground, kowtowing to Lu Qing. Please save us, immortal elder. I can only hold it off for a quarter of an hour. Facing the crowds kneeling and pleading, Lu Qing's expression remained unchanged. Looking at the enormous wind beast slowly recovering ahead, he simply said, During this quarter of an hour you should flee desperately. The valley is not far. If you can escape into the valley, there's still a chance to survive. Even the elder can only hold it off for a quarter of an hour? The armored Great Han's body shook, but considering that this was the Gale Plane, the wind beast not only received the blessings of the Gale Plane but was also immortal. Even facing such an enemy, a peer-level primordial spirit great power would find it extremely troublesome. Immediately, he dared not hesitate, hurriedly shouted. You all heard what the elder said. We only have a quarter of an hour. Starting now, gather together, discard excess items, and travel light. Let's leave at once, advancing towards the valley. No one dared to doubt the armored Great Han's words. Upon hearing this, they discarded excess items, including some precious cargo. After having experienced a near-death situation, everyone truly understood that living was the best. Besides, everything else was merely external possessions. Pushed by the urgency of death, everyone's speed was swift. Soon they all gathered in one place, while the guards from the transportation merchant surrounded them, forming an array, protecting everyone inside it. Elder, we are leaving first, please take care. Seeing this, the armored Great Han did not hesitate. Bowing to Lu Qing, he immediately took down the wind-stabilizing lamp hanging at the front of the convoy. With a spell, the light rapidly shrank, enveloping the gathered people. The next moment, he kicked the scale armor steed below him, dragging everyone within the array like a huge carriage, charging forward violently. The speed was incomparably faster than before. Fortunately, the array formed by the guards from the transportation merchant stabilized the surroundings. Otherwise, with that rush, everyone would be thrown around terribly. Elder, we will leave now. At the same time, Mr. Chow and several middle-aged men in the Golden Core realm performed movement techniques, following the array leaving. Although they were immensely curious about Lu Qing's background. But they knew now was not the time to discuss it. If they stayed, it would only hold back Lu Qing with no benefit. Roar! The gigantic wind beast was restoring its arm. Upon seeing the group of ants dare escape right under its eyes, it roared angrily. It didn't hesitate, the other intact claw reaching forward. Following the deep instinct, it manipulated the surrounding sandstorms. As a powerful beast born from the gale plane, the wind beast was favored by this plane. Endless sandstorms were its playthings to manipulate freely. Especially this primordial spirit realm wind beast, even more formidable. If it wanted, it could easily stir an earth-shattering storm. Therefore, with its grasp, the armored Great Han and the others who had run quite far suddenly found several wind dragon tornadoes, carrying numerous celestial gales, pressing towards them. How could it be? Facing the wind dragon tornado, the armored Great Han was full of bitterness. With the power revealed by the wind dragon tornado, if they were caught in it, they would be doomed. Could this really be their end? Suppress. Just as the armored Great Han and others fell into despair again, a cold shout echoed throughout the world. Then they saw a layer of yellow light spreading from behind, rapidly expanding, extending towards their front. Wherever the yellow light reached, everything was frozen. Even the several wind dragon tornadoes were not spared, being completely suppressed by the endless suppression power within the yellow light, then scattered, transforming into fallen sand dust. You dare flaunt your clumsy divine skills before me? Lu Qing's voice resonated through the heavens and earth, echoing within the gale plane. Shocked, the armored Great Han and others couldn't help but look back. Then they witnessed an unforgettable scene. Lu Qing was hovering in midair, surrounded by a dazzling earthen yellow light. An ancient big cauldron's shadow was slowly rotating behind him, accentuating him just like the ancient legendary gods. Even the enormous wind beast seemed dwarfed by him. Within the space of dozens of miles around Lu Qing, illuminated by yellow light, everything turned utterly silent. No wind, no flying sands. It was like a space independent of the gale plane. This is what the elder meant by only holding off the wind beast for a quarter of an hour? The armored Great Han and others stared speechlessly at the unimaginable scene behind. No wind, no flying sands. It was like a space independent of the gale plane. This is what the elder meant by only holding off the wind beast for a quarter of an hour? The armored Great Han and others stared speechlessly at the unimaginable scene behind. Roar! Lu Qing's words were not only spoken but also accompanied by a tremor of the divine soul. Thus, the wind beast of the primordial spirit realm, although not highly intelligent, understood. Immediately it was enraged. A tiny ant dared to provoke it so. As the king of this plane, how could the enormous wind beast endure? Immediately, with a mighty roar and struggle, it broke free from the suppressive force on it. Then, with its fully restored claw, it lunged at Lu Qing with the force of a mountain crashing down. Simultaneously, it issued an order. The 3 golden core level wind beasts at its feet immediately roared, their bodies transforming into 3 streams of quicksand, chasing in the direction where Old Man Xiao and others were fleeing. However, that primordial spirit realm wind beast did not want to let Old Man Xiao and the others off, so it sent its subordinates to intercept and kill them. But because the space around tens of miles was suppressed by Lu Qing with a spiritual artifact, the gale was abated. The 3 golden core level wind beasts could not burrow into the wind and sand, so they had to transform into quicksand to give chase. Humph! Yet, before those 3 golden core level wind beasts could pursue far, a cold snort was heard. Golden light surged, and the quicksand formed by the 3 wind beasts was instantly immobilized on the spot. Then, a sword chi erupted out of thin air, striking the clusters of quicksand. In an instant, the quicksand shuddered and then its energy dissipated, pouring underground like flowing water. The wind pearls within were completely destroyed, unable to maintain form any longer. It was at this moment that the mountain-like claw of the primordial spirit realm wind beast, whipping up a fierce hurricane, swung down in front of Lu Qing. Facing the enormous claw crashing down like a mountain, Lu Qing didn't dodge or flinch. He gripped his long sword tightly, and in the next moment, an unmatched sharp sword chi was slashed out by him. With an earth-shattering momentum, It slashed towards the wind beast's claw. Boom! The sword chi and claw collided, exploding with boundless might in an instant. Under the catastrophic clash between Lu Qing and the wind beast, countless bursts of strong energy exploded. The space seemed to distort and deform. The terrifying power spread out. Even Lu Qing's domain could no longer suppress the surrounding space. Under the trembling impact, the hurricane rose again. Endless wind and sand re-emerged, spreading in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it had already approached within a few miles of the armored Great Han and others. Not good. Run! The armored Great Han, Old Man Qiao, and the others' expressions changed drastically at the sight. No longer caring to watch the battle between Lu Qing and the wind beast, they all turned around, driving themselves with all their might to flee forward desperately. They could feel that if they didn't escape, they would be swept into the impact wave. Though they, being at the Golden Core realm, might not perish, the others within the array would certainly not be as lucky. The shock wave from the clash between Lu Qing and the wind beast was incredibly fast. In just a few breaths, it caught up with the armored Great Han and his group. But fortunately, even while observing the battle, the armored Great Han and others had not stopped fleeing and had already escaped over 10 miles. Coupled with Lu Qing's domain suppressing and continuously diminishing the power of the impact wave. Ultimately, although the terrifying shockwave caught up with the armored Great Han and the others, it only toppled everyone over to the ground without causing too much harm. However, this was enough to frighten the armored Great Han and others, for they could feel the terrifying forces still erupting behind them. Evidently, that senior was in fierce combat with the primordial spirit realm wind beast, causing such terrifying power to erupt. Unfortunately, due to the sandstorm covering everything again, they could no longer see the situation behind. They could only sense the two overwhelmingly strong auras clashing fiercely. Commander, we must keep moving forward. If the senior and the wind beast start moving again, we might be affected, Old Man Qiao said at this moment. I am aware of that, the armored Great Han nodded. After their guards regrouped, they immediately set off again. This time, they encountered no further obstacles, and after a period of fleeing, suddenly, they felt the view before them clear. The sand that had always surrounded them had vanished. A massive valley entrance stood in front of them. Have we finally escaped? Everyone was first stunned. Then their faces lit up with joy. We've finally escaped that dreadful place. Heavens! I thought we were doomed this time. Escaping death like this. I've decided, I'm never going to do trade runs again. If it weren't for that senior helping, we'd have all died in there. Amidst the cheers of joy and tears, the armored Great Han led everyone into the valley, confirming their safety before turning back to look in the direction of the Gale Plain. However, at this place they were already very far from where Lu Qing and the primordial spirit realm wind beast were battling. Plus, with the endless sandstorm blocking their senses, they could no longer detect any aura from the battle. Commander, are you worried about that senior? Old Man Qiao and a few Golden Core realm members walked over at this time. Indeed, the senior said he could only hold off the primordial spirit realm wind beast for a quarter of an hour. It has long passed, so why hasn't he appeared? The armored Great Han spoke with concern on his face. There's no need to worry, Commander. Given the senior's divine skills and power, even if he's no match for the primordial spirit realm wind beast, escaping should not be a problem. Old Man Qiao comforted him.